Good afternoon, all. Hi, Rookman. Arlene Lewis, good afternoon to you. Hi, Sarah. Alison Boyce, good afternoon. Ebony, good afternoon to you and all else. And Brian, hi, Angela Barrington. Alison Rogers, greetings. Merle Durant, hi, Merle. Christian De Silva, Christopher Coffey, Carol Myers, hi, Carol. Heather Lee, Neil Francois, always present. Slimy Show, greetings. Slimy Show, I see the UNC faithful jamming here this morning on their press conference, boy. They know here. Point Kumara Shara, good afternoon, Diane Charles, hi Diane. Yes, Carol, you're on time. Jennifer Ashby Okoli, good afternoon to you. Janice Batiste, Jamoon, Elizabeth Lakai, Joy Ragunana, and hi Joy, Randon P, greetings. And on the press conference, the UNC press conference this morning, I saw people, I saw somebody saying, Slimy Show, telling Slimy Show, I don't know if you were on the press conference, but in the comments I was reading, somebody was telling you that you are a PNM and they want to know what you're doing here. And then somebody was saying to block you because you are a dirty PNM and all kind of thing. So, Kurt Dalze, Nadia Dixon, Carib View, Nicola McNichols, my friend, Juju Bernard. I'm going to start with a little tune here. 2026 offering from Mr. Shaq entitled The Code. I might just play one verse here. Allow me. Love all fours, you know that is the truth. So when America Trump, we just follow suit. If them MAGA morons is America's concern, well, we present government is easily their clothes. From 2010 to 15, the tenure was so obscene. Scandalize the land and destroy the economy. Like we missed it free for all, incompetence and bubble. So we bring them back to finish mash up the country. And as they assume their roles, I've set up square pegging wrong holes. No plenty people who help them win at these polls. Feel their faith. F-O. Listen, their faith. No, never F-O. The two worst Alexanders in the world can't even make ministers. One is a racist troll, and one need a Bastilian first private F-A. F-O. So the F-A. No, we go F-O. Meanwhile, Tanti setting up TNT. In people worship what we in place. She should have led the Yankee army. That's the red eye in shipping. Balance F-A. F-O. So the F-A. No, she got F-O. You see, when you're ever wrong, guess what out? What's on and on, I must find out. That what's how I bam bam start sweeping she mouth. Sing it out. F-A. F-O. And in that case, that is the call. Oh my God, yellow wins. Corruption begins. Where's the real call? Let me talk to you. You have the mandate. Yes, FAFO, the code. I see Nicola is asking what does FAFO means. Well, I think it started in the US, Nicola. It says, well, F around and find out. So, yeah. So they said in the US, when, the voters didn't do what they were supposed to do, so they effed around and they found out, and now they're saying it's the same thing in Trinidad. Here. A lot of people are finding out, right? Over the last week, 2 weeks. So we see the heavy hand of the Prime Minister coming down on the citizens, as she indicated. What is the term she used, boy? Brutal retribution. Yes. If all can't hear, you will feel.
In 2010 to 2015, it was hands up, hands out, up, out, down. And now, well, yeah, she don't want to hear nothing from Mully. Okay, it's her way or the highway. Um, so I am seeing a lot of calypsos, pretty good ones. So it's gonna be a tough season for calypso judges because there's some serious calypsos out there now, and more to come. Just now, let me see here. Apologies to I saw someone put a comment here just now, right? The color of the jersey I'm wearing was not. Um, yeah, I just picked up a jersey, so I wasn't I wasn't thinking about that party over in Tobago, a disrespectful party. But as I mentioned that, let me start with him. Right? Let me start with Mr. Disrespectful. Let me get it here. The chief secretary. He's another one that needs to go and register as a landlord because it seems like Dr. Rowley living in his head. I don't know if it's to say rent free.
PNM is the most anti-black party in the country. Don't be fooled. Let me be plain to you. They just walk around fooling poor black people, telling them this is a black party, and when they get in office, it's only the 1% that's benefit. Only people that don't look like me and you. And that is why in the past, we call the former Prime Minister a rose fruit. He black outside and the inside still white. And not even no good butter fruit. It's not even yellow, inside white.
So I guess he's probably a butter breadfruit. Yellow on the inside and black on the outside. Right, Fali? We know where the yellow comes from. So if, as you say, he's a Dr. Rowley was a let me use that, right? A roast breadfruit. Black on the outside and white on the inside. So we went from Oreo to roasted breadfruit. Okay. It's a good thing in the end you described yourself, Ali. Because, yeah, Dr. Rowley was no yellow on the inside as you are. Neon yellow. Fali. It is abundantly clear. We know where you all derive your support from. Right? And so the TH8 election is tomorrow. We will see how that goes. But the level of disrespect, once upon a time, Trinis used to say that Tobagonians are held to a higher standard. And we meant that. When we say, certain things that Trinidadians will tolerate and things that we would do and say Tobagonians wouldn't do, that they have a different type. But since this TPP came in, Lord Father, this is the kind of nasty, disrespectful politics that you get from Fali. Over 4 years, he has not changed. He has not grown. And in fact, if he has grown, he's grown worse than how he was before. I mean, even Watson Duke had nothing on Fali in terms of what comes out of his mouth. Dr. Rowley has gone, all right, almost 1 year now, and you still on Dr. Rowley case, and the PNM is the most anti-black party. First of all, who tell you that the PNM is a black party? Okay? And that's the thing I can't take with them. The PNM is a black party and representing the black man and so on. Same thing was being said by members of the current administration, in particular, that bald-headed buffoon, right, Annie Roberts, always trying to gaslight persons of African descent. The PNM is supposed to be a black party, but look at what they do. Look at who Rowley have in the cabinet, and look who it is that he given all of the best positions to. All of that stupidness, all of that stupid talk. And then I always accusing the PNM of blowing the racial dog whistle. So you have this one coming now to talk about PNM is anti-black. So that is what he has to resort to. Talk about what you've done for the last 4 years, Fali. Give us your track record. Tell the people, this is what we have been able to accomplish in 4 years as compared to the PNM over 21 years. And this is why you should give us another 4 years. We were able to do this, we were able to do that, and whatnot. Instead, you can't do that. And what you have to resort to, Rowley is a roast breadfruit. And black on the outside and white on the inside. Who is chastising him for going down the road of racial politics? Who benefited under you, Fali, for the last 4 years? How many contractors of African descent benefited under you, Fali, in the last 4 years? How many? You're talking about black people who benefit under the PNM, but you all took Alan Warner to task and his son to task. How many contracts did they get? You're all owing the people money, and it's not just them alone. How many small contractors of African descent in Tobago that you put on the breadline because of your vindictiveness and your nastiness, because you see them as being PNM? How many of them? You weren't concerned about their ethnicity, but we know is a certain ethnic group of contractors benefited from you, and not from Tobago, from Trinidad, for the last 4 years, Fali, because you are the buttered breadfruit, yellow to the marrow, Fali. And then you have the audacity, the temerity, and the unmitigated gall to tell bloggers from Trinidad to stay out of Tobago business. Really? But you want to comment on what happens in Trinidad, lest you forget, Fali, the name of the country is Trinidad and Tobago. Right? All of our passports say Trinidad and Tobago. Our driver's license, our birth certificates, our ID cards say Trinidad and Tobago. We are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. It's not citizens of Trinidad, citizens of Tobago. It's one country. So we, notwithstanding the fact that we live on the island of Trinidad, because we are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we have a right to comment on what is taking place in Tobago, Fali. And you all continue to want to disrespect Trinidadians. Say the worst of things about Trinidadians. Oh, stay out of Tobago business, Tobago this, Tobago that. But when Easter, you're looking forward to the same Trinidadians who you want stay out of Tobago business. You want them to come and give business to Tobago, right? We have no problem with that, no. But this has been the trend. The other party from which you might have supported before, the other blue party that preceded yours, the Tobago People's Party, is the top Tobago organization of the people. When one of the senior officers there once said, when Trinis come to Tobago, put Visine in the water and give them diarrhea. The same Trinidadians that you all depend on to come across and support your carnival. Because clearly, trying to market to Grenada didn't work. How many Grenadians came to carnival for the last 3 or 4 years or so? How many of them? You all didn't want NCC, no advice from NCC. Well, now that the UNC in power, suppose maybe that might change, even though they have their own issues, as we saw in the video that is circulating with the NCC chairman and chairman of what is he, UNC chairman also was booed. And I think the minister decided in the face of that not to come up and give her speech, fearing that she too might get a boo. All right? But this is what politics has become in Tobago. And I've been listening to I-95 Darian Marcel in the afternoons, where he's been talking about the Tobago's situation and inviting calls. And I've heard a lot of people call us from Tobago, very abusive, angry. If they could reach to the phone and hold Darian by his neck and ring it, they would do that. And what is the reason for all of this set of hate and anger? Unnecessary. We live in a democracy. People have the right to choose to vote whoever they want to vote for. Whoever they want to vote for. And the kind of nastiness that you're getting from that TPP platform, you're not hearing that on the PNM platform. Ansel and Kelvon and others are speaking about issues, but you have Fali attacking people who are talking about the intelligence level and they're not bright enough to be a member of the THA executive and all kind of nonsense like that. That is where the gutter politics has reached. And as Jolene John once said, when they go low, we go below the pavement. And it seems Fali has been more than happy to join the pavement crew. And he's chief secretary, seeming to forget that as chief secretary, you have responsibility for all 66,000. And since let's say Rowley say all these 66,000 people in Tobago are crabs in a barrel, which he did not say. But apparently, all 66,000 or so TPP, right? Everybody supporting your party, nobody supporting the the PNM. But PNM supporters in Tobago have a choice to make tomorrow. We know a lot of them have gone across on the other side for whatever reason. They appear to think that the grass is greener. The disrespect that Fali showed to Dr. Rowley, in particular, and the PNM over the last 4 to 5, well, before that, because since he and Watson was there before, and so on under the PDP, they've been very disrespectful to Dr. Rowley. And we know all the nasty things he said, and I know, interestingly, Dr. Rowley has never reciprocated. When he tell Dr. Rowley to come and remove your navel string from Mason Hall, and who is slave catcher, and calling PNM supporters slave catchers, house slaves, Satan children, all of that. This is a man who is supposed to be chief secretary of the THA, who is supposed to govern Tobago for all Tobagonians, regardless of political affiliation, political leaning. And when the Prime Minister could go to Tobago on her first official visit to Tobago as Prime Minister, and going in the Assembly and talking about the anchor holes, I thought you all would like that. Who you were talking to? As if she conveniently forgot that the THA, there are 3 different political parties in the THA: TPP, PDP, and the PNM. And only one party has the slogan, the anchor holds. So she was well aware of their slogan, their motto, and come in the chamber to talk about that. So in other words, she wasn't talking to the others. Let's focus in on the TPP. Yeah, but they're not part of the coalition of interest. Who are they fooling? The 2 rubber stamps that you all have in the parliament sitting on the government bench. From day one, they have been sitting on the government bench. All right? Not on the opposition bench, if they are opposed to the government. No, they've been sitting on the government side. You're seeing them in a number of government events. Everything government have, they are there. Yeah, but there's no linkage between the UNC and the TPP. Prasad Bisasa went to Tobago. Fali was more than happy to bring the whole entourage to meet her when she came off the plane. A courtesy that he never extended to Dr. Rowley or anybody in the PNM, because from day one, he declared that the PNM was the enemy. And it seems these people don't realize that once you win the election and you are in charge, you're expected to do certain things and act in a certain way. Because those who are opposed to you need to be able to feel that, notwithstanding the fact that they don't support you and you are in office, that you would respect the oath of office that you took, without fear or favor, affection or ill will, to do right by all people, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. But one of the first things that you did when you came in as chief secretary 4 years ago was to fire an entire department in the division of quarries and infrastructure, quarries and so on. Why? Because you said on national radio that they were political hires, PNM supporters. And on that basis, you got rid of an entire department. 17 people were put on the breadline. Right? No regard for bills these people have to pay, families that they have to support, if they pay a mortgage, loans, whatever. No regard for that. They are political hires. The PNM hired them because they are PNM, and let us get rid of them. 4 years later, we still don't know what went on with AudioGate, right? The audio recording where we heard voices sounding like Fali and others talking about using state funds to pay propagandists to go on Facebook all day and malign and attack the PNM and so on. Nothing. Police investigation, we have no idea what is the status of that. Then we had the other audio tape, seemingly between Fali and Prasad Bisasa, where she's telling him that she sent up some money for the last THA election, some $100,000, and Fali's talking about, they want to have some sort of accommodation, some sort of alignment and so on. That goes beyond money. Beyond money. And it seems as if, that is in train. But Fali needs to understand, Prasad Bisasa really care about you, What Prasad Bisasa cares about is the 2 seats in Tobago that the UNC cannot get, and that the only 2 parties that can possibly claim those seats, either the TPP, as they have now, or the PNM. And she needs you to neutralize those 2 seats in Tobago to ensure that they remain in governance in Trinidad. Now, there are sufficient seats in Trinidad for the PNM to get back in office, but we have traditionally depended on, to some extent, those 2 seats in Tobago, even if it's 1 seat in Tobago. Shamfa lost her seat by 106 votes. Not much. And all we needed was 106 or 107 faithful PNM members to get off their laurels and have gone to the polls on April 28th, cast their ballot for Shamfa, and instead of 13, we would have had 14. Right? We would have had at least 1 person in the PNM representing Tobago. But instead, you send 2 rubber stamps who sit down there. And we were told they come to advocate for Tobago autonomy. Really? Every time they've spoken in the parliament, it's just been to attack the PNM. What advocacy have they done? Have they spoken anywhere, any platform, about what they've been doing to in furtherance of this autonomy? What discussions have you had with the Prime Minister? I mean, because ministers of government are more than happy to hop on a plane and come across to Tobago at your beck and call, despite the fact you get disrespected every now and then, the radar, which they don't like to hear about, and stuff like that. So they didn't tell you, and with the issue with the replacement for the Cabo Star as well, you had to hear through the grapevine that the Cabo Star was leaving, and you had to call the minister and express that to her that your spirit was troubled. Well, I see that they've indicated a replacement vessel has been found, and weather permitting, it should be in Trinidad by the 18th of January, but it still has to go through a process and so on. We have to make sure that it can line up with the port infrastructure and that it doesn't suffer the same fate as the superfast Galicia did 2010 to 2015 when it arrived here and it was not compatible with port infrastructure, and it was anchored out in the Gulf for 53 days at a cost of $17,500 a day, because it's not their problem that our port infrastructure couldn't facilitate the vessel, and it cost the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago $6 million in lease costs for a vessel that we were not using, that was just taking sun and breezing out in the Gulf. All right? But the UNC supporters don't talk about that. No mention about those things. That wasn't wastage. Despite the fact that they were told beforehand when they went to do the sea trials that the vessel was not compatible with port infrastructure. That is just what was spent on leasing the vessel. You talk about the money, the millions that was spent to dredge, and the millions that was spent to make the port infrastructure compatible with the vessel, the millions that it cost to repair the Hyatt Hotel, because every time they started up the engine of the Galicia, it would rock the foundation of the Hyatt, resulting in structural damage to windows and other things. Lost revenue because guests were upset that when the Galicia was in port, that it was blocking their view from the hotel rooms, and that they didn't pay to look out their hotel room and look at a boat. All right, so all of those things, but we don't talk about that. But the only thing you could find to talk about is Rowley is a roast breadfruit, black on the outside and white on the inside. No such talk again on the PNM platforms, right? But Fali, tell us, what about the audit, Fali? This great audit that you commissioned as soon as you came in as chief secretary 4 years ago, Fali. This audit that was supposed to show wanton corruption under the PNM, right? And supposed to expose Tricky Tracy and Ansel and all of them, and who thief and how much they thief, and the zipline and all of that. The zipline was a big issue going into the last EHA election, and as soon as you all won and came into office, all of a sudden zipline no longer important. That issue dead. 4 years now, no resolution to that. But you spend a set of money to hire external auditors to come and audit the books of the THA. Corruption, this, corruption, that. 4 years later, you are tomorrow is so you are now on the eve of another election, and the people still waiting for this great audit. 4 years now. Those audits remind me of an audit that was being done on the taxes of somebody up north that up to now still under audit. So we're going into a new term and still no resolve with respect to this audit that costs taxpayers money. What are the Tobagonians asking about that? That's not important anymore, right? No, we don't need to know about that. Mission accomplished. You all got into office for 4 years. What did they do? Millions spent on travel. What they promoting Tobago, selling Tobago as the greatest little island on the face of the earth. What did you achieve in that 4 years with respect to tourism? You got a whole brand new airport terminal from the same wicked, dirty P&M, from the same roast bread fruit, black on the outside and white on the inside. He did that. 2 brand new ferries. Well, 3 brand new ferries. You got 2 custom built from the same roasted breadfruit, black on the outside and white on the inside, who is the anti-black party. But he would have done more for the THA and for the people of Tobago than you did for the 4 years, and you had direct control and $13 billion under your control. 13 billion. Again, Fali, of that 13 billion, how many Tobagonians benefited directly from that? How many? How many contractors? How many new contractors did you create in Tobago out of that 13 billion to be able to hire Tobagonians? Instead of sending the money to Trinidad, hiring Trinidadian contractors, right? Dummy corporations who were just being used as proxies for certain UNC contractors in Trinidad who were not getting contracts under the last administration. And so all the equipment park up there and they have the people and no work. So what did they do? Form an alliance with Ole up in Tobago, right? They get in the work. And we're seeing companies that have no experience, no track record whatsoever in paving road, getting road paving contracts. Companies whose business is in providing decorative infrastructure for windows and so on. Companies whose specialty is in roof building, they get in contracts to pave road. So all of a sudden, overnight, they just decided we're going and do that, and equipment just magically appeared, right? And workers just magically appeared. Tell us, Fali, how many Tobagonians were hired through these contractors? You with your disrespectful self. Imagine the Prime Minister of the country and the Minister of Works come to Tobago looking to do a tour of the quarry, and instructions would come from the THA to tell them, to block them, to deny them entry. And this is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, to tell the Prime Minister his boundary line ends at 1 Jerningham Avenue or some kind of stupid talk. So, and every time I have spoken in the Parliament, I always end up speaking after the member for Tobago West, right, Joel Sampson. And I always have to respond to him and remind him that a significant part of the reason why, for the time that Dr. Rowley was Prime Minister while Fali was Chief Secretary, why Tobago didn't benefit more, it was because of this acrimonious relationship between the two of them. And Dr. Rowley bent over backwards to accommodate Fali. When there was the 6-6, Dr. Rowley went to Tobago and met with PDP and P&M, and he sat down with all of them at the Magdalena and had a conversation and encouraged them all to try and see how you could work this thing out for the best of the people of Tobago. When you wanted, you complain, as Chief Secretary, you should be a part of the National Security Council, or Dr. Rowley came to Tobago. He said, all right, we're going to Tobago and have this meeting. Fadi said he wanted to sit in on the meeting, no problem. Instead of him coming to Trinidad, we will go to Tobago and host the meeting. He facilitated you. You wanted your own Tobago police force. The man come to talk to you. Let's see what we could. It may not be practical to establish a whole new police force specific for Tobago, but let's see what we could do within the current infrastructure that we have, the current TTPS, if we could create a specialized unit for Tobago or something, but still under the ambit of the TTPS. Let's see. You complain, all them white shirt and them coming up to Tobago to oppress Tobagonians, all the licensing officers. I think Trevor James said he would send instructions to the security in Tobago that when them white shirt and them come up the plane to send them back. You complain bitterly. Now, may I ask you, you get autonomy from Kamla? How many times has she invited you to sit in on meetings of the National Security Council? How many times? No complaints from you, and you're okay with that. Yeah? Bending over backwards for Prasad Bisesa. The only thing you can do yet is lie down on your belly so she could walk on your back like a human mat. You and the rest of them. Total disrespect. PNM this and PNM that. So PNM supporters in Tobago have no rights. Right? If you are PNM supporter, according to Fali, you're a child of Satan. According to Watson, nothing for all you. We go do for all you with them big red flag in all the yard. Poor Watson, he has been humbled now. All right? A shadow of his former self. No longer has the bank account of the PSA to support his political ambitions. So what has he had to do? Put his tail between his legs. He had no tail. Right? Fali cut off his tail a long time. So now he just has to go whimpering to Fali. And all over Tobago, talking about Tobago is blue and Tobago is blue. Bossman, your party is green. Did you forget that? You forgot that? So now you out there campaigning. Look at how Fali has humbled you. You made him. He is where he is today because of you. How the mighty Duke has fallen. Mr. Megaphone, stand up on table, dress up like a priest and go and stand up on the stairs in front of the Hall of Justice. The great Watson, who nobody could defeat. Leroy betrayer. You say Fali betrayed you, and where are you today? Where are you today? Bowing before the same Fali. The king now bows before the prince. Right. But at least you know what time it is when the PNM is concerned, right? Dr. Oli used to always say the PNM is not afraid of losing elections. When we lose, what do? We go into a period of introspection, right? We assess and we come back. But let's listen to what's not.
However, PNM does not stay out for very long. That's a history. If they lose one term, you can bet your bottom dollar they come back into force the next term. They are natural fighters themselves. You have to give them that. The PNM is no wishy-washy mamby-pamby party. It's a strong and a robust party. It's a party that never gives up. And they fight almost violently and aggressively. That's the PNM.
Glad that you know that, Watson. Right? So we'll see what happens tomorrow. You see who has the momentum and the winds in their sails. So let me touch on this issue about these fines, right? That has a lot of UNC people upset. But I noticed the tide shifted a little bit over the last couple of days because the Prime Minister knows how to play her supporters. The cult that is the UNC. All the time they vex, well, a lot of them still vex, still upset. Some of them not willing to forgive because they think that the Prime Minister is a liar and a traitor. Their words, not mine, right? But all the Prime Minister had to do was to throw the licensing officers and the police under the bus to say that they're wicked and they're oppressing the citizens and the issuance of tickets, and that her government is going to treat with that. They will come to the Parliament in a few weeks to be able to address that, and they would provide opportunity for citizens to be able to get a little time to fix the issues with your car. Not much time, between 3 to 7 days, as was announced by Minister Zaku at his press conference a couple of days ago. They had a press conference this morning between Vandana Mohit, Minister of Social Development, and Leroy Batiste. And again, they continue to show contempt for those persons who don't support the UNC by hosting their press conferences at the UNC headquarters. So it seems they've come back now with a waste of time Sunday morning press conference. But they haven't yet gotten the memo that you are now in government. All right? And what the fact that in order to see this press conference, we have to go, citizens have to go on the UNC's YouTube page or some UNC Facebook page or some page that is being shared where some UNC profile is sharing. Absolutely ridiculous. If you all are coming to speak as ministers and to speak on national issues with respect to your portfolio and how things that are being done in your ministry, supposedly for the betterment of the wider citizenry, it should not be done at the UNC headquarters. Minister Zaku, to see that you all are ministers of the UNC. No, you are ministers of government of Trinidad and Tobago. Whether or not you are members of the ruling party is irrelevant. Okay? Because when ministers had to give press conferences under the last administration, I didn't see them holding press conferences to speak on national issues at Balize House. It was done at the Diplomatic Center, which is available to you all, which you all used to have your post-cabinet press briefing. So I see no reason why you all couldn't go to the Diplomatic Center. No problem there. You all in charge. Just pull up on Sunday morning and use the press briefing room and have with the backdrop of the seal of the office of the Prime Minister or whatever, because you all operate under the behest of Kamla Persaud-Bissessor, who is the Prime Minister. Go there. That is the proper place, the fit and proper place to have your press conferences to treat with national issues. If you're coming to talk about UNC, fine, go to the UNC's head office, the UNC's headquarters, but citizens who don't support the UNC should not have to be going on YouTube to pull up the UNC's YouTube page. If all you're looking for likes and subscriptions and so on, or you're looking for views to be able to make our money, stop trying to use ordinary citizens to be able to get that. Because we know you all could monetize your page and make a piece of money based on how many views you get and comments and all of these different things. But stop trying to force people to go there. Okay? Because people don't need to be going into the comments and see the nastiness. If they want to comment, they should be free to do so and not being attacked by UNC supporters, as I mentioned with Slimy Show this morning. And I saw the comments and how he was being attacked by persons who are familiar with him. But even though journalists have inquired about that and the propriety of that, they continue to do it. They couldn't care less. The hell with all you. We in charge. Like, even if you don't want, if you have a parliament, well, then just don't tune in. Okay? And that's what we have to be putting up with. But I listened to Minister Zaku, and it's interesting. Right? He said something that stood out for me. Let's see if I get it here. And again, I have to go and pull up their YouTube page, unfortunately. You know, if it was me, I would have had this on repeat. But anyway, let me get it here. That press conference this morning and nothing was the same. But just instead of wasting people's time. Let's see if I get this here. So, let's see. Where is it? Right.
Sure. Well,
Right. Look at this. Right.
goods vehicles, which are trucks and trailers, exceeding 3,200 kilograms max gross weight, can go to VEMCOT. The public service vehicles alone, this would be 65,000 vehicles less coming to the various lines of officers with public service vehicles alone.
Listen to him, man.
I would like to touch briefly now on the merit points system. There's a lot of misinformation in the public domain. I'd like to put a couple of things on your record. There is no evidence that proves that this system worked.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence shows the opposite. Road behavior remained unchanged. When I entered office on May 3rd, 2025, 973 persons were disqualified from driving. 706 were due for rehabilitation under Section 88N3 of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. Over 9,700 persons had received letters of intent to disqualify, and 9,000 persons had qualified for disqualification, but the process had not yet commenced. When I saw these figures, I was shocked. Because if you're disqualifying persons regularly, this figure will not be so high. But the previous government had no intentions of disqualifying anyone. The previous Minister of Works and Transport on April 8th went on national television 3 weeks before the general election and said that the government at the time reviewed the demerit point system in 2022, 2024, and further review by cabinet. They indicated that persons will no longer be disqualified. Once you reach a threshold, you will have to do a rehabilitation program. This government started that rehabilitation program on April 18th, 2025.
Right. So his government started the rehabilitation program on April 18th, 2025. But the general election was April 28th, right? Okay. So apparently they were in office on April 18th. They're so confused. They don't even know dates and want to take responsibility for things that had nothing to do with them. Just like Mr. Philip Alexander trolling hands last week with respect to this sinkhole on the Western Main Road there, talking about the PNM left that there since July of 2025. But you heard him there. He said the previous administration had no intentions of disqualifying people, right? And that the policy had changed where if you reach the threshold in terms of the number of demerit points to be disqualified from holding a license, that instead you would have been sent to rehabilitation classes so that you wouldn't have to lose your license. This is the same wicked, evil, and oppressive government that they talked about. The demerit point system was wicked, this and that, and people losing their license, and people need a car for this and that. But you just heard this man, who is the current Minister of Transport, telling you that the last administration, notwithstanding the fact that there were persons, thousands of persons who would have been guilty of infractions of the law, traffic violations, and so on, and were in line to have their license suspended. But the last administration had no intentions of doing it. And they were wicked, and they were evil, and they were oppressive. That's what you always say, the demerit point system, this, that, here, and the next. And it didn't work. And somehow these increased fines are going to see less road carnage, as if all the accidents that take place on the road is because people speeding, or it's drunk driving, or something wrong with people's cars are defective. And what they fail to realize and understand, you might have gotten a little bit more buy-in from more people, not just the UNC faithful, not the sycophants and the members of the cult. You might have gotten a little more buy-in from the population if you had said, listen, first of all, if you all didn't try to do this in a surreptitious way on Christmas Day to impose your fines, right? And how did the population find out? Had it not been for the due diligence of members of the opposition, in particular the Chief Whip, Marvin Gonzalez, who was the first person to post it up on Facebook, I believe on Christmas Day itself, to draw to the attention of the public what was being done. They just went and they made their proclamation, and they gazetted and so on, and that was that. And so that if it is that the Chief Whip hadn't put it out there, had not been due diligent and put it out there, even members of the media, because the same Mr. Man here, I can't remember well, but he said in the press conference, members of the public are saying they didn't know and they weren't told about this and they weren't aware, and members of the media are saying the same thing. But this was in the finance bill, which I believe was the last bill, that was the second to last bill, I think, that was dealt with in the parliament. All right? The bill that we in the opposition complained bitterly about, because it's 44 pages with all kind of things lumped inside it. And we felt that there were some things inside there that should have been debated and treated with by itself, so that it could get the amount of attention that it deserves, and the amount of detail and proper scrutiny of the contents of some of this legislation. But instead, all they just pack everything inside there, because who had plans to travel for Christmas and don't have time to stick around? Well, then you didn't need to rush it. Leave it for the new year. We still have no idea what the legislative agenda is for 2026. Right? So they're probably still working on that. But you all come in December, early December, with this bill, lump everything inside it, right? So And we made the point when Brian Manning spoke in his contribution, and he spoke about they tried to hide inside the fact that they increased the borrowing limit from $50 million to $45 billion. All of that was in that same bill that Zakur is coming to tell you, well, it was in the finance bill, so well, I didn't know. Mr. Zakur, there are members sitting on your side of the speaker, right? Your side of the aisle, who have no idea what was in that finance bill. You know why? Because if they don't plan to contribute, if they don't plan to speak in the parliament, half of them not even reading the bills. They just come there and they say, all right, I know I'm not speaking. So I have no reason to read. I have no idea what is inside it. And they sit down there like wooden judges in a Ramgood session, and they're on their phone, and listening. And every now and then, if they find somebody on the opposition side says something that they have an issue with, or if you criticize their leader or something like that, they'll make some noise and start to grumble. But that's about it. So when even members of your own government have no idea what was in that bill, they didn't even bother to read it. All right? And you expect the average citizen to say, let me go and look up and see if I find a copy of this 44-page finance bill with how many clauses, right? With legislation and language that I probably would struggle to understand based on how it is written. But over the course of the week, when I should be cleaning my home, getting ready for Christmas, I'm going to put aside some time to get a copy of the finance bill, and I'm going to sit down and read it in its entirety. That's how you expected people to find that out, right? You all like to call press conferences for all kind of things. Consultation. Every time the last administration wanted to increase something, consultation, you need to consult the population, consult. Why you all didn't consult with the population on this to get their views? And maybe they might have told you all that, okay, if you have put forward a proper argument, all right. But at least give the people some moratorium, right? A grace period, as the PNM used to do. When the PNM wanted to clamp down on errant drivers who did not have their vehicles inspected, the Minister of Works and Transport then, Rohan Sinanan, would have given a moratorium. Then he come and he extend the moratorium about 3 times. When people complain, well, oh God, give me a little black. Never mind the fact they had a whole 3 months, right? The 3 months expire and they said, right, we're going to clamp down. People started to go to the licensing office, and you had these long lines, and people were complaining about the long lines, and oh gosh, right. The minister come and he gave them a further extension. That is what you all should have done. We intend to increase the fines, double, right? The same fines that was wicked and evil and oppressive under the PNM, we're going to double it. So 100% increase is not oppressive, but it was oppression under the PNM. And now you all coming to tell us, well, when we were on the campaign trail and we were telling the people we're going to reduce the fines because the fines are too high and it's extortion and it's just the government using this as to generate revenue. We didn't know the state of the situation. We didn't know that Trinidad was so lawless. We didn't have the data and we didn't have the facts. So that is why we were able to make that, trying to defend the indefensible. Well, when the Prime Minister said that, when she told you all that she was going to reduce the fines, she really didn't know how bad the situation was. She didn't know Trinidad and Tobago was such a lawless dump. And that's why she made that promise. But having come into office now, and now we have access to the data, and now we have access to the information, we realize, we can't do that. We need to put something in place. But since we promised to remove the demerit points because it was wicked, double jeopardy, they're charging you a fine and demerit points on top of that you could lose your license. So that wasn't enough of a threat for persons to fall in line. But we didn't know, so all you had to forgive us, right? Don't get vexed with the Prime Minister now. She didn't know that you all were so lawless. She didn't know there were so many of you out there driving with expired licenses. And because your license expired, that means that you don't have insurance. Because if your license expired, you can't get insurance for your vehicles. Where you get that rubbish from? Where you get that from? Because I can tell you for a fact, being an industry practitioner, I know that when people come to renew their car insurance, the insurance companies don't ask you to see your license. Let me see if your license is valid. They don't do that. Some of them will call you and tell you, okay, well, such and such, would you like us to renew? Okay, so you just had to come in. This is what the renewal premium is. You can just come in and pay, and they have the certificate already prepped and ready for you. Feel they want to lose business? No, they want your money. At the end of the day, if you don't do what you have to do and your license expire and you driving with an expired license and you get an accident and you wrong, hey, and we decide to deny the claim because you should not have been on the road based on what the law says because your license expired, we ain't giving you back your money. We make, and we don't have to pay a claim. So they're not even interested in whether your license is valid or not until a claim has to be made, and then you provide grounds. At the end of the day, it's about making money. All right? So I don't know where he get that from, that all of these people, and he's so surprised, all these people who are now coming to renew their licenses, and it means some of them, the license expired for months, and some license expired for years, and it means all this time those people were driving without insurance. You're rubbish. Utter rubbish. The insurance is renewed on an annual basis, not every 5 years. In line, they don't come in and say, well, okay, well, your license is for 5 years or your license for 10 years, so this policy will be for 10 years. So it will line up with when your license expires, so we will know when your license expires and whether or not to give you the insurance to ask to see it. You're on foolishness. But you all were big on data when you were in opposition. All the time, everything is data. When you all didn't want to vote for the anti-gang legislation, when Munilal come and say, when we're looking at this data here from the police, and we look at the number of arrests under this legislation, it's reading like binary code, 10011011110. And the few arrests that are taking place under this law, clearly the law ain't working, so we're not supporting it. They knew how to be able to get data from the police then. When they got that confidential memo speaking to police investigation into Foster Cummings. How you all get that? Confidential memo that was supposed to be limited to, I believe, Special Branch, who was carrying out the investigation. But somehow Jayanti Lakshmi Dayal was able to get a copy. So you all weren't able to get data from the police. You could have get data for everything else. Prasad Bisesa, when the late Marlene McDonald, Dr. Rowley went to Dr. Rowley to tell him that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa came and told her that the police coming to arrest her. Her arrest is imminent. And so said, so done. Within 2 days, she was arrested. And Dr. Rowley would have brought that to the parliament. And when it is the police went to investigate, Marlene said, well, me telling all nothing. I'm not cooperating with any investigation. All right? And Prasad Bisesa got off scot-free. Otherwise, she too would have been before the courts today. But you all were able to get data and get information about that. But you couldn't get the data with respect to traffic fines to determine how lawless Trinidad and Tobago was. So the fact that the PNM brought the demerit system into place, you all came to Parliament to debate. Did you read the bill? Were you listening when the minister then would have been piloting the bill? I would have spoken to the reason why the government felt that this was necessary to bring this demerit point system into place. But then when certain people not in the Parliament, the outside more than the inside, what do you expect? So this nonsense of we didn't have the data and we didn't know. So therefore you all were making promises based on what? Based on what? And that is why your Prime Minister taking all that licks today, because she made a promise based on what you now telling us was ignorance. She didn't know that was so lawless. So she wasn't reading the newspapers and seeing all of this road carnage and how many fatal accidents was happening on the road. What did she think was causing that then? Since you all have all the answers now, it's because people driving drunk and people's cars not roadworthy and all of that. That you all come and say the PNM was wicked and this is just a revenue generation policy. And it had nothing to do, her words, it had nothing to do with stemming the tide of lawlessness on the road. It was all about generating revenue. But your supporters are saying that this is to generate revenue. The same thing you all accuse the last administration of. And all they say, no, it has nothing to do with revenue generation. In this document here, the Minister of Finance budget a figure of $180 million. The government expects to get at least $180 million a year. So they are banking on you all, the citizens of this country, breaking the law. They're saying they're trying to cut back on lawlessness. But then in your budget statement, you budgeted, government expects to get $180 million in revenue from that. And then Zaku come in to talk about, well, you know, if it is that this plan works, we will actually generate less revenue because if citizens abide by the law, then they wouldn't have to pay so many fines. But well, you double it. You double it. If under the old fines, right, the revenue generated under the old fines was about 108 million. And you also, well, all right, well, we see some people will comply with the law. But if we want to generate that 180 million, we need to double the fines, because even if some people decide to get their act together and they fix up their cars and they decide to ease up on the pedal and they're not speeding and, you know, they're not drinking and all of these different things, we will see a reduction. So we don't want the figure to drop below 100 million. So what we need to do is to double the fine so that even when people break the law and we have a reduction in the number of law breakers, we will still make some money. Because we know it will never be eliminated. Not everybody is going to fall in line. You know why? Because compliance is expensive. And it's not that everybody who drive in the car with a defective light or defective or some sort of defect doing that because they're lawless. A lot of people find themselves in that situation because they don't have the money to fix their vehicles. It's not that they don't want to fix it. There are lots of people in this country who want to drive a new car and can't afford it. There are a lot of people who, I have had a gentleman come to me in my office, one of my constituents, right? He drives driving taxi. He has one of these minivans, the 7-seater. And the vehicle has been unable to pass inspection. Why? Because there are certain things that he needs to do to fix it. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the money. So his vehicle has been down. He could drive it, but he doesn't want to take the risk of going out on the road, driving the vehicle, no inspection sticker, and then he gets pulled over, gets a ticket, and then that is an additional cost. So he can't afford to fix the vehicle to make it pass inspection so that he could earn a living. And now, even if he wanted to take a little chance, the last time he went, so he got a little money. Every time he get a little money or whatever, his wife get a little job, he get a little end here doing some kind of work. He tried to do something. So you have a list of things that needs to be fixed. So he will fix this, he will fix that. The last thing, they told him that his tires were smooth. So he need money to change the tires. He can't afford that. Because he has a son who just, who sat SEA last year. He had no money to buy books for the son, to buy school bag, school supplies for the child. Right? He has rent to pay. So most of the money that he makes when he and his wife, when the salary bounce, goes into paying the rent, and the rent was in arrears, about 2 or 3 months in arrears. So they were facing eviction. So that is their priority. But every time he could eke out a little dollar or two, or a few dollars, when he get a little end somewhere, you know, little construction work or something, he tries to put it into the vehicle to get it roadworthy so that he could go out there and earn a living. Now, if you try a thing, somebody say, boy, I want to give you a little private work. I need you to transport. You go on a little excursion or something, or somebody going to the airport and they need a drop to the airport or whatever it is, you can make a little 150 or 200. He can say, well, I need that money, you know. I could try a thing. So it's not that he is lawless. He can't afford to fix his vehicle at this point in time. And that is why people were saying, if you all had a heart and you had announced in December, instead of doing it under the cover of darkness, listen, these are the new fines, and it will come into effect from the 1st of March. So we're giving all you 2 months to get your house in order. If you know that your vehicle has not been inspected, go and get it inspected. Not to implement it immediately, effective the 1st of, you come on December the 25th to announce that effective the 1st of January, these fines will come into place. Giving people, what, 1 week to sort out themselves? It's how many people you all put on the breadline? 50, 60,000 people that you all fired. People who was working CPEP and working URP. Not the ghosts. Real laborers. Man have a little old car and now he has no job because you all took away his job talking about corruption and ghosts. And we had to do audit. 6 months now, you all still auditing, like you all hired the same auditors that Farley you hired. Probably going to take 5 years to complete that audit. So therefore, until the audit finish, can't do nothing to help CPEP and URP workers. So the man have a little old car, and in the meantime, while he's trying to find work, decide, well, he will pull bull, PH, which is against the law as well. But he's taking a chance, and you know the car need this, the car have little issues. This need to fix, That need to fix, but no income coming in. Because the loving, caring, benevolent government put him and thousands others like himself on the breadline. All right? So it's not that he wants to break the law. But your government put him in a situation where he has to take a chance. License coming up to expire. All right? In a week, 2 weeks, $500. Where he supposed to get the money from? When he all over the place looking for hampers for Christmas, so that he could at least have a meal on the table for Christmas Day to feed the family. Trying to make little money to send the children to school because your government took away his job. And now he's trying to get work, and it's difficult. Why? Because he is competing with 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people, Philip, of similar circumstance. All of whom, at this point in time last year, had work. Right? They were sure every fortnight, money in the bank account. It may not have been much, but at least they could do something. Now no work. Right? License come into expire. Well, it's 500, you know. What to do with this money, right? Renew the license, but then that money was to buy groceries. Renew the license, but then that money was to pay rent. I can't pay the whole rent, but at least if I could get the landlord something, it might buy me a week or two. Get him off my back for a little bit until I could try and make some other money. Or do I take this $500 and renew my license? Because you know what? If I don't, and the date passes, it's double. Because I now have to pay more. The fee, the late fee, is more than the cost to renew the license. So if the man said, well, all right, I'll have $1,000 and I'm going to take this 1,000 and renew my license for 10 years. So at least, you know, that's one less headache I have. I don't have to worry in 5 years' time. I don't know what my financial circumstance will be, and I have to find this money now to renew my license. So now we have $1,000. One day, and maybe he's supposed to get a piece of money, but he gets it a day or two after the license expire. You ain't going out on the road, you know. I just have my license. But I know my license expires, so I'm not driving. The car park up. But if I get $1,000, I know I get $1,000 or whatever it is, do a little work or whatever, I'm going and do that. Or $500 to renew my license, $500 for the landlord. Now he has to worry. This money coming 2 days after my license expire. And it costed me $650 to renew plus $500. And you come in and say, it's lawbreakers and the only persons who impacted. We have people in this country who hold driver's licenses and they don't drive. They have no car. We know there are thousands of people in this country who use their driver's license as ID. They just, when they were young, they just finished school and the excitement of wanting to get a license because they figure, yeah, I want to drive. I want to get my license. They go and they get their license. Years pass, they could not afford to purchase a vehicle. So they just have their license there. Okay, it expire at the point in time is not a priority for them because I have no car and I'm not driving. So this little money could do something else instead of me going to spend it to renew my license. But when I have sufficient extra cash, I could probably go and do it. The law doesn't say that because your license expired that you have that is an infraction. If you're driving with an expired license, that's different. So when a man says, well, I'm like, yeah, but it expire, but what is just idea using it as? No biggie. So no rush to go and renew it. Because I don't anticipate getting a car anytime soon. I have no money to rent no car. And nobody lending me the car to drive. So it's just ID. It's just some wallet there. Now, these people, some of them, might just have a little bit of money. But they're faced with the prospect of you either go, your license is coming up for renewal, it's coming up to expire. So if you don't want to pay the fee, never mind the fact that you don't drive, you have no car. Since you get your license, the last time you sat behind the wheel of a vehicle was probably when you took your driving test. But the government is telling you, if you don't want to have to pay a late fee, you need to come and renew your license, notwithstanding the fact that you don't use it for the purpose, the main purpose for which it was intended. So come and pay your $500 or your $1,000 to renew your second ID card, because that is what it is. For these people, it's just a second ID card. And some people go and get it, not because they want to, no, but because most institutions, financial institutions in particular, now require you to have two forms of ID. Two forms of ID. So most people have their ID card, and I need another form of ID. So, sorry, well, let me go and get my license, right? Let me learn to drive. That was the motivating factor. You go to the bank to open an account, and the bank says we need two forms of ID. They force you. could go and get a passport. I said, let me get the license. So I get it for that. And then what? Now they have to go and find this money. They had no intention of renewing the license now because, as I said, they're not driving. But you don't want 6 months to pass because the fine doubles. It goes from 650 up to what? 1,700 and change now? Past 6 months? So it costing you 3 times what it would have cost you to renew your license. So what you would have paid to renew your license for a 15-year period, you're paying more than that to renew your license if you wait 6 months. More than 6 months. And they come in to tell you, but that was always there and it was always in the law and it was 350 before. Yes, but clearly it was not enforced. Because on the morning that you all implemented this, it is reported that staff have licensed and say, well, we didn't remember that. Them just come and tell you that just so out of the blue. And I can attest to the fact because my license expired in December. My license hardly ever comes out of my wallet. The only time I take out my license from my wallet is when I travel and I rent a car and I have to take it out to give it to the person for them to process whatever it is, right? The rental agreement and so on. But otherwise, to that, my license, I don't really have cause to take out my license when I go to the bank because I use card most of the time. If I have a check, I'm not going to cash it. I just deposit it to my account as the case may be. Most of the time, I use the ATM, right? So I really don't have cause. So you go and you realize, so that's out of sight, out of mind. I know, okay, it's coming up. So anyway, my license expired on the 12th of December. Went online, made the appointment, right? You give me an appointment and you give me a time to come in. I choose Ryson Road, time 11:20. When set up the appointment now, I get the form, the document with the QR code and what they tell me how to bring. I have an appointment. It says show up 20 minutes before to make sure everything in order and your documents are from. I show up there and it's a long line. Long line. Now, I don't have time to come and stand up in licensing office for hours, especially since this, I can't for the life of me understand why everybody in licensing have to go to lunch at 12 o'clock and come back 1 o'clock, right? You all can work a shift system, so some people will go to lunch at 12, some people go to lunch at 1, so it's a constant system flowing. Not that all shut down all operations at 12 o'clock, and people have to sit around, find something to do for a whole hour and more, because even when 1 o'clock comes, not everything resumes. You still have to sit down and wait until the food digests and all of that, and conversation done, and yeah, right? Whoever went out to buy whatever, and then they come back in whatever time, right? You still have to deal with that. So I get to licensing office on Ryson Road. I have an appointment. I have work to do. Stand up in the line, 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes. And it seems like these people at the counter, like they come with the longest of transactions. They don't have simple transactions anymore. Long. I say, see me, I don't have time for this. No, I will come back tomorrow. So I go home, right? And I say, all right, well, let me book another appointment to go back tomorrow. Going on the system now, and it's telling me that, so I guess because the QR code wasn't scanned or whatever it is, so it's still showing that I in the system for this appointment at Ryson Road. So it's not allowing me to make a new appointment because it's telling me that something with the credentials for this license or whatever is already on record or whatever. So it's not allowing me to book for next day. And I don't want to go there with no embarrassment with a form that was due for yesterday. If you were to tell me, well, nah, this appointment was yesterday, so you had to rebook and come back another day, right? And I don't know what is their policy with respect to walking appointments, because I recall when I renewed in 2020 and I went in, I was told specifically, you need to have an appointment, whatever. They weren't taking walk-ins when I went to St. James. So try to book in Arima, same thing. Particular time. Reach there, 11 o'clock, line sneaking around the building. And you know if it is that you don't get through by 12 o'clock, crap or smoke your pipe. You have to go and sit down for a whole hour and more until they reopen. Nonsense. In this day and age, we're still doing that foolishness and wasting people's time. Say, nah, boy. Stand up in that line again like yesterday. I'm going through that. So, all right, I'm going back the next day. Go back the next day. I say, look, I go in with this with this form from yesterday, right? And if it is that I had to let them know, okay, let me use the position as MP to get through. I'm not looking for no special favor, but I'm just saying. So I went in, talked to the guy, I let him know I came yesterday, but the line was extremely long and I had other appointments, right? I'm the MP from Alabama, Osaka, and then he said, all right. Went, he put me in as a walk-in, and so on. But the point is, I would have renewed my license 4 days after it expired. I didn't pay any late fee. I did not pay any late fee. So clearly, for Zakru to come and say, well, that was always low, and so it was not enforced under the wicked, evil, oppressive PNM. It was not enforced. But all they come now and telling people surprised. It wasn't announced. You all just announced an increase in fees. You saying that it was in the finance bill. How many people looked at the parliament for that debate? And if that particular issue was not addressed in the debate because there were more serious things that the opposition felt they needed to highlight. And that is why we told you all they should not have come and bring all of these things and lump it into one bill. Just those increases alone should have been one debate by itself, so that we could have interrogated all of the fines and offer recommendations and amendments to be able to assist the public. But when you all come with all of that, and you only have 45 minutes to speak, and of that 45 minutes, you probably have members of the government interrupting you for 15 of the 45, so that you can't get your point across, and there are certain issues that require a significant amount of debate on. Again, that same issue, increasing the borrowing limit from $50 million to $45 billion. And the supporters of the UNC in questioning that. No, it's okay. From 50 million to 45 billion. The bald-headed buffoon didn't see the need to do a doubles and coffee to talk about that. If the PNM had done that, oh boy, you would not hear the end of it. Letters to the editor. All them radio talk shows would have been talking about that. The PNM would have been getting level costs. Oh, they want to come and borrow all that money to thief. Buy money for the 1%. That's the Bill Balize house. All of that is what we would have been hearing. But I just pass under the radar. And they come and they bring this bill with all these things lumped together and expect you, the citizen, to go and sit down and go through all of that. When their own members not going to. And the point is, you all should have told the people, this is what is. These are the proposed new fines. It will come into effect from the 1st of March. So they have 2 months to get your house in order. And people might have grumble a little bit, but at least you give them a little time to sort out, to put their house in order. Okay? Now, long lines, people have been taking time off from work, right? Using up their sick days so early in the year to go and see about these things. When you go to some of these private garages, again, long lines, and you have created an opportunity for these private garages now, seeing people desperate to charge them increased fines or increased fees to do this inspection. Because when a man desperate and I need to get my car inspected today, I go pay the money. If you tell me 500, what I do? I have to pay it. Because is either pay this 500, get the inspection, get my sticker, or run the risk of going out on the road, end up in a roadblock, and get a ticket and I have to pay 4 or 5 times what I would have paid you for the inspection. So you know what? Let me pay it. And there are garages that are making money off of that. Yeah, you could get an appointment. We cannot follow up tomorrow, but we could squeeze it in, but of course, you have 500. I will take that, yes. Because I can't be taking time off work constantly to tell my boss, well, I'm coming in late or I had to take a day because I need to go and get my car inspected. And long lines, people sleeping in their cars. Just to avoid having to pay these fines. Having to find money, borrow money, who I have to borrow money, wherever it is, pawn the jewelry or whatever it is to be able to get money to make sure, hey. And then you're quick to come and say, oh, the opposition and the lawless, and has nothing to do with lawlessness. It has to do with the fact that we, on a weekly basis, and not just weekly, practically on a daily basis, because it's not just people coming to your office to talk to you. People bouncing you up on the road, in the grocery, in the market, wherever. Boy, what are you doing about this government, boy? When all they come and when all they organizing a march, this government wicked thing, they doing with this, doing with that. Pressure. So you'll create a situation and compounding it. And then the goodly Prime Minister decided, well, she's going to come and play knight in shining armor. Throw the police and the licensing officers and the traffic wardens under the bus. They're too wicked. They're oppressing citizens by giving out these tickets. But madam, where were you when your Minister of Homeland Security back in August rewarded 5 police officers for writing almost 5,000 tickets, 5,000 fixed penalty notices over a 6-month period? What message? That was no oppression. What message did your government send to these officers when you did that? All you could do it in private, you know. You want to reward them, no problem. Have a little simple ceremony, the same ceremony that you all have, but you didn't need to invite the media. But you wanted to put the message out there. Hey, we're rewarding this one officer who write 1,400 tickets in 6 months, and this officer 697, and that one 900 and something. We're rewarding them. So in August, that was no oppression. You didn't question, well, how this one officer writing so many tickets when the ordinary citizen was asking that? You weren't asking that. You weren't looking on social media and reading the comments where people were actually threatening and saying, yeah, I should bounce them up. Them officers and them, you know, yeah, they ain't gonna be police officers forever. And these threats persons were issuing. You didn't know then it was oppression. No, you rewarded the oppression then. And now, water more than flour, and you realize that even your own supporters don't want to hear nothing from all you. All your ministers who come in on social media and want to gaslight and make people feel, well, it's because they're too damn lawless. And let's have a challenge. And the challenge is, let's see if we could come up with a challenge to see who could drive safe on the road, and if we could reduce the amount of tickets and the amount of fines. And then in 6 months' time, the Prime Minister will look at it, and if the numbers have dropped, then she will consider dropping the fines. When she said there will be no reduction in fines, she put out a press release and made it in bold letters, there will be no reduction in fines. Or you're too lawless, you're a lawless dump. Well, it cannot be serious. And the people are saying you should have given them a moratorium and let them know. You just come the next day and say, well, this is the new law. No time for you to sort out, to adjust yourself or to put your house in order. None. There's the law today. And people will break the law when they don't know the law. I had a meeting yesterday afternoon with a homeowners association in one of the gated communities in my constituency, right? Because we started a series of meeting with various groups throughout the constituency to see how we can, come together and do things in the constituency to build that camaraderie, not just isolated pockets. So this area doing things and that area doing things. How can we come together as a constituency and combine our resources to do things to be able to operate more as a family unit? So Dabadi, we could have something, Mausika, Malabar, Dabadi, this one, that one, all of them come together, one sports day, one family day, or something like that, and get to know your neighbors outside of your immediate area, right? And this issue of the fines came up, and we were discussing it, and I made the point. I said, one of the issues that people face is it's easy to break the law when you don't know the law, even though they say ignorance of the law is no excuse. And I asked the question. There were about 7 of us in the room. I said, what is the speed limit on Tumpuna Road? One man hazard, I guess, and he was incorrect. He figured that the number he quoted was incorrect, right? And the rest of the people in the room had no idea what the speed limit is on Tumpuna Road. So therefore, they could be driving on Tumpuna Road at 50 kilometers per hour and think they're in the speed limit. 60 kilometers per hour and figure they're in the speed limit, within the speed limit. And they're not. They would be in contravention of the law and they don't know it because they have no idea what the speed limit is on Tumpuna Road. I didn't know what the speed limit was until a couple months ago when I was invited to an event, and I spoke about this before, the opening of the Tiantec Credit Union on Tumpuna Road, and the president of the credit union asked me if I can get a speed hump right in front of the building because of the speed at which the traffic flows in front, and it's like a highway. And now that they have the credit union there, when customers are coming in and they have to cross the road, that could be a hazard for them if we could get a speed hump or street light or something, right? And it was then that the contractor who would have renovated the building, He pointed out the speed limit to me. That is actually 35 kilometers per hour. And he only knew that because there's one sign, one old rusty sign, just a little way down from the building. How many of those signs are there on the road? And I made the point before, you could be driving on the highway and you don't know that the speed limit changes from 100 to 65 in certain areas. But a lot of people telling themselves, well, it's 100 kilometers on the highway, and don't know that the speed limit adjusts in certain areas. And you go in your merry business and you're watching your speedometer and you see 100 and telling yourself you're within the speed limit and you get a ticket. Right? Speed trap. Police pull you over. You're going 165. And you didn't know that it was 65. And just so you get a ticket in your ways, what are you going to do? How are you contesting it? Well, Your Honor, I didn't know that it was that the speed limit in that particular stretch of the highway was 65. Okay, ignorance of the law is no excuse. What else you have? I have nothing else. Pay a ticket and hush your mouth. Go your way. In other jurisdictions, they have up these digital speed signs. So you're looking at it, you're driving, and it will tell you, slow down. When I'm in Florida and I'm driving on the I-95, swing off certain roads, Atlantic Boulevard, Commercial Boulevard, Oakland Boulevard, Sample Road, and they have these digital signs. You know, they have it around the Savannah too. Well, it's not working, but it's just there, right? So that if you're above the speed limit, you'll see it start to flash and tell you slow down, slow down, slow down. Your speed is whatever, so you know you're above the speed limit. Put those things in place, so at least people would be aware. Somebody might be going to a particular area for the first time. They have no idea what the speed limit is, and they think they're in the speed limit. They get catch, ticket in their ways. And these are the things that people are talking about. And then you come and you say 3 days, police pull you over, issues with your vehicle, right? Defects, you get 3 days to fix it. You don't have the money, go and find the money to fix it. And if it is that you don't show up within 3 days at the nearest police station or licensing office to show that you have corrected the defects so that the system, they could make the adjustment in the system to see that you met the deadline and the ticket, right? The ticket is canceled, you had to pay a fine. 3 days. So make sure you don't get caught on a long weekend, right? And make sure whatever is the defect, it is something that you could fix for yourself. But not everybody could change a bulb. All right? Your tire might be smooth. Not everybody has the money to go and buy a tire. 3 days. Make sure you have your money in your pocket to go and do what you need to do. Otherwise, you pay a fine. So now people have to start saving money to set aside an emergency fund for ticket fines. You even say, I will increase it by 50%, 100%. And then telling me it's not about revenue collection. If it wasn't about revenue collection, you would have given the people a proper grace period to get a house in order. And after that, if you get them 2 months or 3 months grace period and they get catch after that, well then, you look for that. You look for that. Yes, the fine is still draconian. The fine is still punitive. But you look for that because the government gave you time to sort out yourself. 3 months. Right. Now, again, some people still have issues with money, but all right. It is what it is. Meanwhile, the central bank has announced that they will be proceeding with the printing of new $100 bills, right? With the new coat of arms. Interesting development. When just 6 months ago, the Minister of Finance, Dave Taxku, announced that they would be suspending. Let me get it here. Let me get that here. Right. Tanku halts printing of new $100 bill. 15th of June, 2025. Finance Minister Devendranath Tanku has instructed the central bank to halt printing of new $100 polymer bills, which features Trinidad and Tobago's redesigned coat of arms with the pan in place of Columbus ships. I confirm I have instructed the central bank to immediately cease all activity associated with printing of any new bills bearing the new coat of arms, Tanku told the Sunday Express yesterday via WhatsApp. However, Tanku said he was not at liberty to disclose the reason for the decision at this time. Let me repeat that. However, Tanku said he was not at liberty to disclose the reasons for the decision at this time. Now, what possible reason could there be for you hiding the reason why you gave those instructions, Mr. Tanku? You are a servant of the people. As you all have reminded us in the chamber over and over and over for the last 8 months, you all are in charge. The public gave you an overwhelming mandate. They rejected the PNM soundly and gave us a good cocktail at the polls. The people put you there. You are a minister because the people gave you all the mandate. You work for the people, but you telling the same people, your employers, well, now I can't tell you. I made a decision. The government made a decision, but I can't tell you why we made a decision. And is that? Yes, you pay in my salary, but to hell with you. I don't have to tell you anything. According to the statement from yesterday, the timeline has now been shelved. Following a request by the Minister of Finance to suspend printing of any new notes with the revised coat of arms until further notice, the central bank instructed the contracted banknote printer to cease any work related to printing, preparation, and designing of the 2025 series $100 denomination. So they didn't just cease printing, preparation, and the designing, right? Cease the designing as well. The suspension comes amid signs of potentially tense relationship between the central bank and the Kamla Prasad Bisesa administration. Right. So we don't know the reason why it was suspended, but we know that it was suspended. All of a sudden now we come and we hear it's back on. No reason given, but we just hear it's back on. And because this government, despite their claims about transparency, are anything but transparent, this is where conspiracy theories are born. So I would ask the question, is it that Mr. Hawaii is anxious to see his signature on the money? I just asking. No, you would have to tell the printer to resume the process of designing the notes, right? And you still have to get the approval or whatever it is for the design, unless that portion of it was completed. But I am asking the question because they said they're going to resume now the printing of the $100 notes with the new coat of arms. Despite the fact that we heard just a couple of weeks ago that they have now suspended the use of the new coat of arms, right? So the existing coat of arms will remain valid until 2031. And there was a conversation about cost and how much it's going to cost the country to replace and whatnot and stuff. So it's going to cost to do this, right? But my question is, if you have to, at some point in time, you're going to have to print new bills because the existing bills going through the system eventually going to become what we in the banking sector used to call mutilated. Constant use, wear and tear on the fabric and so on. The bills start to look old, worn out. So some of them might be torn, people write up on it, so you take it out of circulation and those will have to be replaced, right? Now, the smaller denominations are in greater circulation than the $100 bills because those bills are used more frequently. People traveling, they use the 20, the 10, the 5. Most people don't pay a maxi taxi driver with a $100 bill unless you're looking to get costs, right? Especially if you didn't take the maxi on the hub. You can take a chance on the hub. Driver might say, "Me and money, I don't have change for that, but when they take up their money before they depart, they might collect enough to be able to give you your change, especially if you're paying for 2 or paying for 3 as the case may be. So most people don't walk around much with $100 bills unless you're pocket deep and, So it's small bills. So if you're going to print $100 bills with the new coat of arms, it stands to reason that you would do the other denominations as well, right? Because they are in greater circulation and they will be taken out of circulation much faster than the $100 bills. So if you're only printing the $100 bills and you have the design, why aren't we doing the same for the lower denominations? Which leaves me to question, is the government printing money to meet their expenditure needs? Right? Because you ain't making the money otherwise. It's pressure all around and people keep complaining things hard. So I just ask it, Is it that Hawaii is anxious to see his signature on the currency? Or are you all printing money to be able to? Because remember, they have a deficit, a projected deficit to defend. In the budget, the Minister of Finance said the budget deficit is projected to be about 3.5 to 3.8 billion. We told them, that ain't making no sense. So they're talking nonsense. Rubbish. Two former ministers of finance, Colman Burt and Vishnu Danpal, explained to them in detail why that figure not making no sense, especially given the fact that you all have not budgeted for the increased salaries for public servants with the 10%. You have not budgeted for the back pay. All right? And if you factor that in, your budget deficit is going to be greater than 3.8 that you are projected. Well, they're talking nonsense, rubbish. Okay, well, just fear-mongering. All right, no problem. When we asked in the parliament about it, what did the minister say? Well, we can't make any allocations in the budget for the 10% because it has not been negotiated. Negotiations are still going on. And unless those negotiations are completed, we don't know how much we will have to pay. So that is, no allocation has been made for that in the budget. Since then, negotiations have completed. So we know what the new salaries are going to be taking effect from this month. So the government's wage bill is going to go up. And they paid an advance on the back pay to some public servants last month. Some supposed to be getting it this month. So that is additional monies that was not included in this. All right? Which means your budget deficit is going to go up unless you all plan to find money from somewhere, magically, to be able to fund these expenditures such that your deficit can either remain at 3.8 or fall below. So call me a conspiracy theorist. But I'm just asking, this sudden change, when the minister couldn't disclose just 6 months ago why he decided to halt the printing of the new $100 bills, and all of a sudden it's back on. If you look in, because none of the people in this government, not even Tanku, despite the claim that he has an economics degree, whether it's a bachelor's or whatever, listening to this man when he was in opposition, some of his debates, one questions the validity of or the legitimacy of that degree. But I may not challenge him, right? You have a degree wherever you get it from, however you get it. I just ask you. This is how conspiracy theories come out. Are you all printing money to be able to meet your deficit? And we know what that could cause. Trinidad and Tobago's currency is not a reserve currency like the United States. They need to continuously print money because hard currency often leaves continental USA, because that is currency that is accepted all over the world. People go to the US every day, millions of people, and then they go and they leave the country with actual hard currency that they didn't come in with, and they take it out of the country. So it impacts the amount of currency, hard dollars that you have circulating within the continental USA, and so they need to continue to print money to replace. You actually have countries that use the US dollar as their official currency. Panama, for instance, right? They use US dollars, and there are other countries that do that as well. So the US must continuously print. Our TT dollar has little to no value outside of Trinidad and Tobago. So nobody come into Trinidad and Tobago and say, well, they leave in with thousands of dollars in TT currency. So more or less, our hard currency remains in circulation. And the only time money is taken out of circulation is when either because the money is mutilated and it has to come out of circulation, or the central bank introduces some monetary or fiscal policy to treat with inflation and stuff, and they put reserve requirements on the banks and tell them you need to increase the amount of money that you're depositing with the central bank to reduce the money supply, right, to treat with inflation. So we know printing money, increasing the money supply outside of the normal channels, and what that can have, the impact that can have on inflation and so on. And I don't put nothing past this government, desperate to defend that supposed budget deficit of $3.8 billion. So I just asking if maybe, because you can't tell me only printing $100 bills and not the other denominations, because it makes sense to do it one time. Because eventually the coat of arms will have to change on all of these other denominations. And I make the point, if it is that the other currencies, the smaller denominations, are in greater circulation and will become mutilated much faster than the $100 bills, why are we not printing new 20s and new 10s and so on to replace those with the new coat of arms? And why only $100 bills? But I leave that there. right? I just wanted to, again, show you the debauchery of some of these UNC officials, public officials, right? So, of course, a lot of people are complaining about the issues of the fines, as I spoke about before, their own supporters. And a lot of them vexed because some of their supporters, a lot of them rather, turning on this government and the prime minister, they no longer see the prime minister as this caring, benevolent, loving mother that they thought she was. Plenty of them saying it's better way to keep him good, better way to keep Rowley, because this government, they're only killing people. Let me read for you what a sitting UNC councillor on the Tunapuna Piako Corporation, what she had to say to you ungrateful citizens who complaining about the government wanting to dig out your eye with these increased fines. It's so sickening. Most of all you who's complaining about my government new traffic laws didn't even vote in the 2025 general elections. So hear what? HYMC. Right? This is sitting councillor. I'll call her name, Jalen Rupnarai. And she's telling you, half of all you who complain didn't even bother to vote. So you all have no voice. You all have no right to speak because you didn't cast your ballot. You didn't vote for this government. You didn't assist to put them in power. So hush all you. Hush your right. HYMC. And it's not have yourself a Merry Christmas. This is how she is speaking to people, citizens who have a right to be upset. But she is telling you, if you want to complain about her government's new traffic laws, and you didn't vote, HYMC. And it just continues along the trend of what you get from others. Roberts, Alexander, Nakid, right? So much so. There is a gentleman who has a profile, goes by the title Opinion Box. A PNM hater. Well, I don't know what the PNM do to him, but anyway. So, a couple days ago, he put out a post in which he's proffering a conspiracy theory that the Commissioner of Transport, Mr. Clark, I think is his name, that he is a PNM plant, a PNM stooge, and that he is responsible for the issuance of all of these tickets, oppressing people to make the UNC government look bad. Now, last I checked, the majority of tickets that are being issued, especially since these new fines came into effect, is not being distributed by licensing officers over whom Mr. Clark has responsibility. The majority of tickets and the majority of complaints we've seen on videos are tickets that were issued by police officers. And last I checked, the head of the TTPS is not Mr. Clyde Clark, it is one Alistair Guevara. But you see, they can't say that the Mr. Guevara is a PNM plant because, as they see it, Mr. Guevara was a UNC nominee. All right? He was appointed under the UNC. So whereas they could have said Erla was a PNM stooge, was Farley said Erla was wearing Balize bloomers. All right? They can't say that about Mr. Guevara. Because Mr. Guevara has gone on public radio to say he has never voted in his life. He has no intentions of ever voting. And therefore, that is supposed to make him apolitical. Because he has never voted, that means he supports no political party. And then you have Nakid, who will come to do a video to endorse this piece of nonsense by this individual, Opinion Box, to claim that the Transport Commissioner is PNM and that he has his officers issuing tickets to citizens to make the government look bad and to anger the citizenry against Mrs. Prasad Bisesa and the government. And he supporting that, pushing that foolishness, you know. But thank goodness, right-thinking citizens. I myself used to call the UNC supporters fully dunce. But a lot of them have redeemed themselves, right? Because when I look in the comment section under a lot of these bloggers, these activists, these influencers who are pro-UNC and who trying all how to defend the foolishness, when you read the comments from people who support the UNC and they say, I voted for the UNC, but I didn't vote for this. I voted for the UNC, but I feel betrayed. I voted for the for Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, but she disappointed me. That's what they're saying. And I have played numerous videos. The PNM had our public meeting in Sangre Grande on Wednesday. And who did we see show up? One warrior princess. The same warrior princess who, you all may recall, during the election campaign, when Stuart Young went to Sangre Grande to work with Roger Monroe and to campaign with Roger, they were both accosted by warrior princess. And Stuart Young had to let her know, hey, listen, we came here to meet with the people and so on. And then she have questions to ask and she want to know what are the plans for employment for the youth in the area and all of that. And she went hell hard, right? Against Roger, campaigned hard against Roger. Proudly wearing, I think I saw a video where the UNC was walking in Sangre Grande and they went to the home of a lady who was a PNM supporter. The lady came out in her gallery wearing her PNM jersey. And this same warrior princess and others came with the UNC jersey and put it on the woman over the PNM jersey, and that caused a stir. And the media had to reach out to the lady to ask her and so on. Yes, campaign hard against the PNM, firmly in the camp of Wayne Sturge. She came to the meeting on Wednesday. In just 8 months, she fed up at them. 8 months. Right? They have squandered that mandate in the space of 8 months. Nicholas Jaikaran, another one, strong UNC supporter, lashing them on a daily basis. Jason X, campaign hard with Philip Alexander. Now we cussing Alexander and all and telling them, come for me now. Why? Because they convinced people to vote for yellow is the code. They told people things would be better. 8 months later, people who had jobs under the PNM are now unemployed. They were told, hold on, don't worry, after the budget, you'll get through. Budget, we've gone through a whole quarter. The first quarter of the fiscal year is gone. Right? And we are now 11 days into the second quarter. And these people see nothing, no relief in sight. They're not hearing anything about CPEP. But $7 million allocated to wind up CPEP, but no money to assist them. None. The government said that they have this pilot program for 13 weeks that takes you into February. They hired 220 people. And now we are hearing that up to now, persons have not been paid. So it's on News Source page, I think it was. Persons are complaining up to now, they didn't get paid yet. Since the 15th, I think, whenever last month they were supposed to get, they didn't get paid. Money coming. Have the people doing all this hard work? Because one of the persons, as I told you, the two names that I was asked for, one of the persons telling me the kind of bull work that they have them doing, right? Cutting down big tree and all kind of thing, and up to now you ain't pay the people. And they were supposed to come with their own tools. I said I had to provide one of the guys with a cutlass, assistance to be able to purchase uniform, those vests with the neon strips on them and stuff. They tell people, come, bring your own tools, bring your own rake, your own cutlass, your own everything, and come. The only thing we're providing for you all is transport. And up to now, you still ain't pay them. Some of them had to borrow money to be able to purchase tools to come and do your work, and they still ain't pay them yet. So they owe in. They have to find money to travel to wherever is the central point to get the transport to go wherever. And you still ain't pay them. But meanwhile, all the ministers collecting their salaries every month. On time. No worries. No worries. They rather ask. Sometimes the money in the account even before they anticipated it, before the day that they are accustomed to getting it. So they have no idea what it is that you are going through. But there are people like, what's his name? Kishan will come on my live to talk rubbish. I ain't let distract me today, not today. Not today. So, let me get this here. Right, let me see this here. Right, where is it? The EAP program. Let me see. I know I had that saved. Where is it? Where is it? So, right. No mental health for teachers, EAP inaccessible, right? The Employee Assistance Program. Teachers struggling with personal and workplace challenges are now being asked to fork out $450 per session for counseling at the Employee Assistance Program, as the Employee Assistance Program is no longer accessible. Speaking to Newsday on the condition of anonymity, a secondary school teacher said he received the shocking news this week after he called his provider to book a session, but was told he would have to pay for it out of his own pocket. According to the Chief Personnel Office website, the EAP is intended to promote the health, safety, and welfare of all individuals employed in agencies and to improve productivity within the public service. It said employees can access 5 free sessions annually. The teacher said he was taken aback by the change in policy as he attended several sessions in 2025, most recently in December. Asked what was his reaction, he said shock and anger. He complained of massive burnout among members of the teaching service and said many are struggling to cope. The program provides teachers with an outlet to help them to refocus when they are dealing with issues within the school that can at times be overwhelming. It keeps teachers from, I believe, that it keeps teachers from having mental breakdowns, and it is a highly stressful job no matter how long you've been in it. Tutor President Crystal Ash confirmed to Newsday on January 6th that he has received complaints from other teachers about their inability to access the Employee Assistance Program and has requested an explanation from the Ministry of Education. Newsday spoke briefly with Education Minister Dr. Michael Dowlath on January 6th, asking him to confirm whether the program has been suspended. However, he said he would make inquiries with the Permanent Secretary and ask Newsday to WhatsApp all relevant questions. However, up to publication, no response was forthcoming. Right? The EAP is Ash agreed that the EAP is an invaluable service which he has also used. The EAP is extremely important. What it does, it provides a free service to members of the service and their family members. Some of them are upset in the fact that they need the service, and now you're telling them that they can't access the service. He said the counseling is usually provided by Elders Associates Limited, and he called for clarity on the future of the program. I know Elders to provide a quality service, and we want to make sure, if not them, at least somebody comparable continues with the service. And he described teaching as a highly stressful job. So even that's an all they take out. They themselves recognize, schooling these days ain't easy. That we had to send police in the schools to deal with some of these students. And some of these teachers have been able to cope because of this EAP program, where they could go and talk to somebody and just de-stress. Sometimes all they need is somebody to talk to, a listening ear, not somebody who's judgmental, who could hear and give you some advice, what to do and so on. Mental health is a serious thing. We see people, even students killing themselves, right? And they just have to deal with their work. What about these teachers who have to deal with different students who have different issues? And then they have to go home and deal with their own issues as well. And then to get their back pay, their pay raise that they would have agreed to, and up to now can't get a pay. And now you're being told, let's see that little program that allows you to be able to at least go and de-stress and, help you to cope mentally. And now you better find $450 for each session. No more free sessions, nothing sponsored by the ministry. But I could tell you, I recall when I was at St. Mary's College, there was a particular teacher. You could tell the man was troubled. He was just different. The way he used to speak to the students, you could tell, it was just bad. You don't know what's going on at home with these people. So I wasn't surprised when a couple of years after I left school to hear that he had committed suicide. Right? And they found his decomposing body in his home. Because you could tell the man had issues. And so these things are important for people. And so while some people may dismiss it, you don't know how important that might be to some people, right? That the well-being and safety of your child might hinge on that. It's preventing your child's teacher from coming to school one day and just tripping and doing something drastic because they just can't cope anymore. And like this government don't want to understand that, but they have money to be hosting parties and all kind of events at the diplomatic center and inviting persons who need not be invited. the Marish and the Parish from the UNC, a simple production sharing contract signing is a big thing. You have to invite everybody in the UNC to come and eat and drink and have a good time. When under the last administration, this is a simple something that would have taken place either the office, the minister's office in the boardroom at the ministry, or probably at the office of the entity, right? But no, all of these things now is a big show. We had to invite hundreds of people to just come and sit down and watch two documents signed, and we clap and thing, and then after that we have entertainment and food and drink. Yeah, come and like yourself. Free food, free drink, entertainment, courtesy the struggling taxpayer. But we don't have money to provide or to continue the employee assistance program for our teachers. And I understand it's not just teachers alone. It is to other public servants as well. The same thing. So they're already complaining about some of these police officers, like I know we're going on home, if they're getting on, they're this and that. All these public servants. You go to a public office and you find the public servants always looking grumpy. There's a certain attitude. These things help some people. But your government say, all they want to pay for it. So you see that 10% all they get, take that and go and pay for your employee assistance program. Either that or cope as you can. All right? But we're not paying for it. You pay for it. All they get pay raise and all they get back pay. Use it for that. This is your loving, caring government. I also saw people are asking questions of what is the... So there is a lot of speculation now with respect to the Dragon gas and what is going to happen. We would have seen last week where Mr. Trump would have met with the heads of some of the major energy companies in the United States, and he has indicated that the government will be engaging the services of these companies to go into Venezuela and to invest money to turn around the economic fortunes of the Venezuelan energy sector, now that Mr. Maduro is no longer in power. So who is in charge? Delcy. We know what is the relationship, or what is Delcy's position with respect to Trinidad and Tobago. As I mentioned last week, the same National Assembly that declared Mrs. Prasad Bisesa persona non grata is still in place. Most of the players from the last administration, the Maduro administration, are still in place. The people who called Mrs. Prasad Bisesa a drunk and a mad woman, still there in their positions. Nothing has changed, save and except that you have a new president. Nothing else has changed. Unless and until direct instructions come from, I suppose, Washington to the government in Venezuela to meet and treat with Dragon gas, meet and treat with Manatee, Lauren Manatee, because let us not forget, notwithstanding the fact that the Manatee side of the field belongs to us, we would not have been able to monetize that gas without an agreement with Venezuela. All right, and Stuart Chung would have gone to great lengths to tell us why agreements such as that are unheard of, right? Uncommon, because of the challenges that they present, given the fact that it's just one big gas field separated only by maritime borders, and because of the potential complications that could arise with one side extracting the gas that belongs to another side, because there's no physical boundary in the ocean that allows you to say, well, okay, all the gas on this side is mine. It was complex negotiations that took place, and we could have gotten a license for that. The last administration, which is the same administration now absent Mr. Maduro, made it abundantly clear, and Mr. Maduro wasn't the one who came up with this. This is what would have been told to him, what would have been suggested by his advisors, and he supported it. Because remember, Mr. Maduro wasn't the one who was making most of the comments with respect to what was Trinidad and all of that. I don't know if perhaps it might have been out of respect for the last administration, but for the most part, he tried to be cordial. Even after years of assault, unwarranted assault, from Mrs. Prasad Bisesa calling him a narco trafficker and accusing him of being part of a corrupt cook-up involving Dr. Rowley and Naveen Jindal and all of that. Even in the face of that, Mr. Maduro never came out and said anything. I read for you all last week the statement that was put out by the Venezuelan government when Mrs. Prasad Bisesa was sworn in as Prime Minister, where they congratulated her and they expressed their delight at her swearing in and expressed their willingness to work with her government, especially as it pertains to security and energy matters. All right? It was all glowing. I don't know if Mrs. Prasad Bisesa ever responded to that letter from the Venezuelan authorities, the Venezuelan government, but from day one, they expressed a willingness to work with her, notwithstanding the fact that they were well aware of all the things she was saying about Mr. Maduro and members of his government prior to her election as Prime Minister. All right? Because Stuart Young, again, would have mentioned on numerous occasions that every time he went to Venezuela to treat with matters related to the Dragon Gas, Manatee, Coquina Mannequin, and so on, oftentimes he would be asked, why is the opposition in Trinidad and Tobago attacking the Venezuelan government? So they were well aware. Like, they seem to forget we had a Venezuelan embassy here that is here to look after the interests of Venezuela. And so the ambassador and the staff of the embassy were well aware of the things that were being said about their government and their leadership. Right? So other than Mr. Munilal, when asked questions about what is the status of, he says, well, the Dragon Gas is still intact. Okay, and that statement is based on what, Minister Munilal? Have you spoken to anybody in Venezuela? Have you had contact with the authorities in Venezuela? Have you spoken to Venezuelan President Delcy Rodriguez, whom you all maligned in 2020, right? Along with Astrobal Chavez and Wilma Ruperti and all who came here on sanctioned vessels and all who were sanctioned and so on. Have you had any discussion whatsoever? Silence. All you will tell all you, these things are still intact. And you see, that's the difference. Stuart Young used to at least give us information, updates, Dr. Rowley, because he knows the country was heavily invested in this Dragon Gas. Over the years, we've heard of how important it is to our economic fortunes. But even if Stuart Young was not as guarded as Munilal is, the same UNC supporters who used to cuss Stuart Young about the non-disclosure agreement and is the citizens of this country, Dragon Gas does not belong to us. But all vex, what they agree to and what they signed, and we want to know. But these same people who wanted to know for the last 5 years, when Munilal tight-lipped, you all don't want to know. And all they're telling you already, these things are confidential. The Prime Minister came in the Parliament to say, Stuart Young, the former minister, ought to know that these things are confidential and that we cannot disclose certain things. But when the PNM was telling you all that, you all didn't want to hear that. No transparency. We want to know Stuart Young went to Venezuela 13 times and what he went to Venezuela for and who he talked to and what he signed, and we want to know and we want to know. Now you're getting nothing from this government, and the same people who wanted to know, you hypocrites who wanted to know for the last 5 years, you all don't want to know now. It's national security, the minister, they can't talk. All they expect people to think, and all of a sudden you all understand the confidentiality of commercial agreements. But you didn't understand that for the last 5 years. No. We want to know how much money Rowley gave Maduro, million US, and how much US he gave. Well, you all have been in charge for 8 months. Any and all information with regard to that is in the ministry. Rudal Munilal is now in charge of the ministry. He's assisted by Ernesto Queza. Kamla Prasad is the Prime Minister. Prasad Bisesa is the Prime Minister. The UNC is in government. All the information with respect to all these things that you all keep asking about, how much US they give and the million US, and we want to know, it resides in the ministry. How come you all not asking Munilal to disclose it now? He's the minister. He has access to all the information. Why you all not asking him to disclose? Why hasn't he called a press conference to come and tell all you, this is how much money, this is what they agreed to, look the document here, these were the particulars. Why isn't he doing that? You all wanted to know. Ask him. All he has to do is to call the permanent secretary, provide me with the details, all of the documents as it related to this particular transaction. Bring it for me. I want to know. The supporters of the UNC want to know. Bring it. So I could read and understand and I could go back and tell them. Why hasn't he done that 8 months later? And why you're not breathing down his neck and asking him for the information? It is there. The same thing they claim the PNM shut down Petrotrin because they wanted to cover up for Rowley's best friend, AV Drilling. Well, all the documents there, all the information is in the ministry. Stuart Chung is not there anymore. Keith Rowley not there. Heritage is there. Paria is there. Right? They didn't shred the documentation. If they did, Mr. Munilal would have come and tell you all that before. Right? All the departments that existed under Petrotrin, still there. All the filing cabinets, still there. Right? All the servers with all the information and so on is still there. So all the conspiracy theories that you all in the UNC had about they shut down because they wanted to cover up and fake oil and so on. Mr. Munilal, he championed that case for over a year. Came in the parliament and claimed that he had information about bank account and $500,000 wire transfer and all of that. He went to Miami to do his own investigations and all of that. 1 year later, he came back to the parliament during the budget debate to complain. And here it is, he made these claims a year ago and up to now. Up to now, the police ain't ask him nothing. And he waiting. And he has all the information in a manila folder in his drawer, waiting for the police to come and ask him. And Gary Griffith said, all right, well, bring the information. He is in charge now. He who championed that issue with AV Drilling and the fake oil, he is now Minister of Energy. So all the evidence that he wants to prove his case that, yes, that happened. All the claims they made about the case against Malcolm Jones was withdrawn because it was political. And they did that because Malcolm Jones was who friend? Rudal Munilal is now the Minister of Energy. All of the documentation related to that case resides in the ministry. Why doesn't he go and bring out the documentation that you all came to prove that it was political? No talk about that. All the allegations and claim who did what and who did what. They have access to all these documents now. No talk about that. They love to bust mark, but they could come to tell you who had bus route pass between 2015 to 2025. That's important. The Prime Minister could come and call names and come and tell you, they could come and tell you who get HDC house under the last administration. That is important. They will come to tell you who had contracts, who get HDC contracts for scavenging and all of these things. But they're not coming to tell you anything about AV Drilling that they claim the last administration cover up and shut down the refinery because of that. No talk about that. No. But other things important. Gopi Singh come in the press conference, when was a couple of days ago, to come and tell you about the regional health authorities and how much money was being spent on janitorial services and how much money was being spent for this and money was being spent for that. They're about busting mark and exposing the last administration for corruption. But these are big issues that they raised. Bring the evidence now and tell us and show us how AV Drilling received $100 million for fake oil. Bring the evidence. You all have it at your disposal now. You in charge. Bring your evidence about Malcolm Jones. You all in charge. Bring it. Nothing about that. Where they supporters? Do ask us. Instead of coming here on My Life to talk rubbish, go and ask them. That is your government that you voted for. Hold them to account. Right? Come and prove to us now that Rowley was corrupt and that the refinery shut down to protect his friend. Where the evidence? Or let's say 2.6 billion thief, Ember thief, 8 months now. Where is the evidence? You all in charge of the central bank. Right? Tanku in charge of the Ministry of Finance. Or let's say Ember thing and do that and do this and do that. Privy Council say investigate Ember. That's what you all said. Right? Where the documents? 8 months now, Tanku can't get it yet to show you that Ember thief 2.6 billion. It takes that long to discover to find proof that one man thief $2.6 billion. All of a sudden, we ain't hearing about the Auditor General anymore. Right? The government, the party that defended her is now in power. They get rid of Alvin Haley and they put Hawaii in the central bank. So there is no obstacle, nothing preventing her from being able to do her work. Nothing. Nothing preventing them from coming with the documentation and say, yeah, Ember thief, because we know it's a long time while they're looking to lock up PNM people. Or they lock up Ember yet? All the staff in the Ministry of Finance, nobody have a document to come and say, Mr. Tanku, look the proof here, look Ember thief, look where we thief. All of a sudden, all you're singing that song again. Not holding your government to account, but all they had time to come to Parliament to take away your young pension. They had time to come to repeal Revenue Authority. Bring the evidence. Send it to the police. Where's the evidence of the inheritance tax that Prasad said the PNM was coming to implement? Where is it? She's the Prime Minister now. You had to have some document somewhere within the Secretariat of the Cabinet or the Office of the Prime Minister to show, well, yes, look, they were coming with an inheritance tax. Nobody there, so everybody who working in the Office of the Prime Minister is PNM, nobody willing to talk. And no UNC supporters working in the Office of the Prime Minister who could come and hand her document and say, look, the proof here. All the allegations you all made against the last administration. Nothing. 8 months, we're in month 9. And not a document you all have been able to produce to support any of the nonsense that you all were talking. Both all the PNM this and Rowley this and Rowley that. Rubbish. See who else here. Let me see. So, yes, Leonard is saying they're going on 6 times now we raise gas. Yes, and I that was one of the things that upset me. And I had to say, anyway, Mr. Mbud could have defended that better. But I have already spoken to that issue. At the 6 times that Mr. Mbud raised the gas, he didn't have to raise it 6 times, he could have done it once or twice at most. Instead of breaking down the big increases and giving you all it in increments of 50 cents and 75 cents, he should have done like Hawaii, his predecessor, and jam all it. From $4 to $5.75, one shot. Up your K-Packs, no grease. That's what he should have done. All right? But no, he was too kind. So let me get him easy. I had to increase it by 175. So I wouldn't do it like how Hawaii did it. I'll get him 50 cents now, and I'll come back in 6 months and get them my next 50 cents. And then I'll come back 6 months later and give them 75. So I break it up. So they don't have to endure $1.75 from day one. So they could save some money over the period and then ease into the new price. But no. You put increase 6 times. He's too wicked. He didn't care about the poor people. And Kamala reduced by $1 and she took it back. And he said, yeah, I saving $200 a month and gas, $200 a month in the price of gas. One ticket is all it takes. One. That's all. And what you would have saved on gas in one ticket could lick up what you would have saved on gas in 2 years. Yeah, but she's great and she's wonderful, right? Well, yeah, that's Prime Minister for your money. Right. Let's see this here. Right. Republic Bank Limited pulls Youth League sponsorship. Republic Bank Limited has withdrawn its sponsorship of the Republic Cup National Youth League for the 2026 season. The league has been in existence for nearly 3 decades, 30 years, beginning under Anthony Horford's All Sport promotion and later passed on through several administrators. Its most recent iteration saw it evolve into the National Youth League following a partnership between Trinidad and Tobago Football Association and the banking institution. The revelation was confirmed via the bank's group marketing and communication arm by manager Preston George, who announced that the competition would be placed on hold this year. We advise that the Republic Cup National Youth League will take a strategic break in 2026 as we regroup, realign, and build toward an even bigger, better future. Following a strategic review by the organizing committee and key stakeholders, a decision was taken to place the league on hiatus for 2026. So this comes on the heels of NGC pulling sponsorship from a number of steel bands. And as the chairman of NGC said, the company is not a charity. Right? It's not a charity. And we express concern. I express concern in my budget, in my contribution to the budget debate about the stated intention by the minister in this very same document. This very document about the government's intention to exert, well, whatever. Well, let me not say exert pressure, right? So they intend to leverage on their majority shareholding at Republic Bank. And I told you all, staff at the bank are concerned, all right? You put this new board in place, and now these things, this is the first development. I expressed concern in my contribution to the budget debate and elsewhere. Republic Bank, I made the point, sponsors Major Steel Band, Exodus, and others. I'm sure they probably give a little something here. Republic Bank has the Power to Make a Difference program, where they've given away tens of millions of dollars to NGOs across this country towards community development. They've assisted schools. I could tell you, I know St. Mary's College, they would have, through that same Power to Make a Difference program, would have purchased a bus for the school to be able to transport students to various sporting events and so on. And now, this is the first casualty of this new board. Out of the blue, right? Out of the blue. Because the TTFA, I understand, was making plans quite recently for this, and then we come to hear the 2026 season is cancelled. So can we expect that maybe next year Exodus will not be Republic Bank Exodus? I don't know. Are we going to hear Republic Bank is not a charity? Whatever happened to corporate social responsibility? We keep hearing all this money the bank's making. Did they get out people eye? All this profit? Well, they were giving back. They weren't keeping it for themselves and their shareholders. There was a significant portion that was going to assist community development. So all the young men who were looking forward to this, probably this year's series, this year's league, are now disappointed. Right? It's things like these that scouts can go to and they could see footballing potential. I say, yeah, that fella, yeah, he know what he about. Let me talk to him. Let's have a conversation with him. Did he get a scholarship? Who knows? But now, this government has come in place. They decide they're going to flex their muscle with respect to First Citizens Bank. So again, we may see some casualties with First Citizens Bank too, because I know under the last administration, First Citizens Bank was quite generous with, again, a lot of NGOs and so on, sponsoring a lot of stuff. I know they are the sponsors, the title sponsors for the Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year award. We'll see how that goes. I wait to see the Power to Make a Difference program is going to continue, because, I mean, as an MP, I was hoping that my constituency could probably benefit from that, so we could see what assistance we could get from the bank, because there are things that need to be done in the constituency that we know we're not going to get any help from the government for. But we have a lot of young people. In fact, I recall when I was campaigning and I went to some certain areas that are economically depressed, and the people say, hey, what, we don't really want nothing for ourselves, and it's just the youth in the area. Boy. If you see that little basketball court outside there, it could use some work. If we could get the hoop and stuff, if we could get a new hoop, get the ground repainted, clean up the grass around the area. We have a little football field outside there. If you could assist us, get us some assistance with that, so we can have things instead of having to keep these young children inside every day. Get them outside, get them active. That's all they were asking for, you know. And we know we ain't getting no help from the government with that. So we intended to lean on corporate Trinidad for assistance with these things. And now we read stuff like this. Corporate Trinidad, that is under the control of the state, is pulling away, pulling out sponsorships. But the Minister of Community Development, of Culture, was only happy to announce there are 2.3 million allocated for unsponsored steel bands. How many of those steel bands are unsponsored because of what you all did? How many of them? I could tell you as MP, I have about 5 steel bands that have asked me for assistance as MP. It's only so much I could do. I think I have about 3 steel bands in my constituency. And they're looking for help. It's Carnival, they had to pay the players, they're looking for help to pay for transport, all of these things. And whereas they may have gotten assistance from the state before, government say 20,000 each. What 20,000 could do for these bands? Some of them need sponsorships for probably 10 times that. Government say we give all the 20, so all they could do with the rest. But don't bother to look for any state enterprise to assist you all. Go to the private sector and look for help. But they come to impose a surcharge or a levy on the banks, assets, surcharge on landlords. And just remember, it's not only domestic landlords. Once you name landlord, so whether you're in your commercial landlords, you have a little mall, you're renting your property for business, and some of these commercial landlords, nondescript commercial landlords, they give sponsorships too, you know. They get like 5,000 and 10,000, as the case may be. Now they have to pay these significant fines. So, tell the boy you had to pay tax. Forget that. Can't help you. And we know I have reached out to some corporate entities too, and they tell us things tight, the place hard. That's all they keep hearing. The place hard, the place hard, the place hard. Someone is saying here, MH, 20,000 can't do anything for those steel bands. It can't. Where at the community center where we had in San Grande, where we had the meeting on Wednesday, in the yard, they have a steel band resident there. I may not say that too loud because next thing they might get an eviction notice, right? Some of these steel bands don't even have a place. They don't even have a home of their own. They're begging and lodging. Not everybody is fortunate to have a space, right? And when it is that the government with a high hand come and say, well, look, you can't use here and you can't use there. I have a community center in Samaru village that was vandalized. It was built by the last administration, and some hooligans and hoodlums from the area vandalized it. They steal light fixtures, stove, computers, fridge, everything, right? They just left the community center as a shell. And I raised the issue during the Standing Finance Committee of the budget to the minister, because the constituency residents of Samaru village, they want a space. They want to teach stuff. They want to teach people to develop skills, to earn a living. I have people who have come to me who said, listen, I want to teach people how to bake. I want to teach people how to cook. There are a lot of mothers in the area who were working CPEP, who were working URP. Some of them were working in the women's program under the URP, and they get let go. The women's program where they were cleaning schools and stuff, they have no employment. So I'm offering my services free of charge. I just need a space to be able to teach them. That's what they're saying. People offering the services. I have retired teachers who have come to me and said, listen, I'm willing to offer my services to provide lessons to somebody student, but I just need a place. And we have the community center there, but it's vandalized. And I wrote to the minister. She told me in the parliament, send her a letter and she will address the situation. The budget was in October. We are now in January. I am yet to receive correspondence from the minister, even acknowledging receipt of my letter. Nothing. But in the meantime, people come to me and they continue to ask, and we want to bring down crime. This is the things that you need to do. You all came in right into office promising all kind of things. All kind of thing, all they're promising. So what? Because it's an opposition constituency, nothing. But as I have to remind them, 7,400 people voted for you all in Malabar Mausika. 7,400 people. You all got an increase in votes in Malabar Mausika from 2020. So you're lucky about these people. You'll just come Christmas time and hand them a hamper and hand them some toys and call that George. You didn't even have the courtesy to have a Christmas party for the children. They come in the community center down in Karapo, which itself needs help. The community center in Lower Malabar, and you hand out some toys and some hampers and you call that George. And you figure you do something. How long that hamper going to last? How long? But you're writing to them, waste of time. Tumpuna Road in a mess. Potholes galore in Tumpuna Road. I've written to the Minister of Works and Infrastructure. I wrote to her on numerous occasions with respect to specific roads. I've written to her inviting her to come to the constituency and do a tour, like I've seen her do with so many UNC constituencies, where 6:30 in the morning, she and the MP on the road, and they touring to see what needs to be done. I have written to her requesting, I spoke to her in the parliament, right? She told me, send her a WhatsApp. I sent you an official correspondence. All I have gotten is a response not from her, but from a member of her secretariat, simply acknowledging that the minister received my letter and they will pass it to some department, to the relevant department. And that's that. Nothing else. Right? Just a folder of correspondence stating that. In the meantime, you all reduce the amount of allocation to the Arima Borough Corporation, who's responsible for at least patching the potholes, so they have no money for that. I can't even get help there. So I'm not getting help from the corporation, not getting help from the ministry, and the potholes are getting worse. People's cars getting damaged, but you all want to increase fines. You want to increase fines all over the constituency. Yesterday, I went to Cashew Gardens to see a client. First time going to Cashew Gardens. My Lord. If you see the roads inside there, there's craters. This is a UNC constituency, right? I went to an HTC development. Cashew Gardens. Who is the Minister of Housing? David Lee. Who is the MP for that area? David Lee. 8 months in office. Yesterday, you're walking on Main Road, wherever it is, that's other people. And a camera crew to show that you're walking. You just went there for exercise because I didn't see you meet with nobody. You didn't shake hands with nobody because you know plenty of these people don't even want to see you all here, much less hear all you. Right? The roads inside Cashew Gardens not as in terrible condition, going on in craters. It's like no part of the road good. Even the side streets in a mess. And you are the Minister of Housing. Right? And I am told that the corporation can't go in there because there's an HTC development and the HTC is responsible. But they accuse the PNM. Oh, the PNM this and PNM that, and the roads this and the roads that. But the supporters inside their hush, it's only 8 months. Where's for them to do? When Tole said we should have the best roads in the country because of the pitch lake evaporated, it disappeared. 8 months is not enough for them to come and give us some kind of relief. Foolishness. Right. Hey boy. Folks, I will take a couple of your calls. All right, because it's already 4 o'clock. Let me see some of these comments here. Someone is saying, I said back in 2021, we're in a cultural war with these people. The onslaught is real, but people are always looking for better angles. Is it angles or angels in these people? They have no. And yeah, let me get this here. Jenny.
Hi, Auntie Romaine, happy New Year.
Same to you, same to you.
2026. And to all this all of Toronto, Texas 17. I just saw this disturbing video, and why it is really disturbing to me is women, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that things are heated in Tobago because, you know, it's two political parties, the main ones, and everybody emotion is high and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I PNM supporters do not be dragged in to the TPP supporters and their vindictiveness and the wickedness. And that what happened is in this video, some PNM women and men were standing on the pavement in the jerseys and they were talking to somebody who taping, telling them apparently it is alleged that Watson should pass and give money to certain people and they were showing the money.
Right.
Then after that we saw this car pull up and this woman, a woman in a TPP jersey, she came out of car and she was accusing the PNM, some man who only paid when they are pulling some flags from off of her car. One of the PNM women said, calling her by the name Jennifer, she said, stop lying, you know, nobody pull off no flag. And some words were passed and the PNM woman telling her, don't let politics get between us. Don't let politics get between us. Some other words passed and all that. And that woman in blue, a big woman, when that can pull out, if it's the size of the knife, Dominic.
Wow.
and coming to the PNM woman, well, if you threatening me and give me talk, I walk around with you, and she pulled the knife. And when she pulling the knife now, I don't know if it's to stab them because she felt in wild chop and things, she get a kick in she chest. And with that, they started to beat her hand with the flag, no, the PNM flag, now to get the knife out of her hand. And I want to tell people, you see the hate that Farley has been pushing into Tobago. In my opinion, that is the end result of it. Because you're free to support any political party. You're free to give a little peacock if you want, but you see this unnecessary violence, because even though it is true they took off the small flag from your car and you're passing, you could have de-escalate the situation. They tell you they pull off no flag, whatever, drive off and go your way. Your car still full of flag. Your thing now is to go to your car. Suppose now she did stab somebody and today, now this evening, now should have be on a murder charge or attempted murder charge. For a flag? Because you support Farley and the TPP? For a flag? Why are they doing this? I am very concerned. And again, I'll call out to the PNM supporters, you all out there, be very vigilant. De-escalate, don't engage these people because like they come there with an anger. Because I see the PNM woman trying to de-escalate. She's telling the next woman, don't let politics get between us. Don't let politics get between us. I heard her saying that. And this woman in the blue, she continued, a big woman, you know. Not a young girl, you know. Continue on to say all kind of things. She said all that. And then you go to your car and take out this big knife. Who would I get wrong there, Dominic? Because first thing police will say, you cannot drive away. It's a flag, you say to take off your car, you cannot drive away. Instead, you escalate the situation, you go on for a knife and talking big talk and all that. Now you get a kick in your chest, people will want to borrow his PNM, this and that. So PNM people mustn't defend themselves. Only TPP alone could say what they want and do what they want in Tobago, and you can't defend yourself. And again, I blame, in my opinion, Farley Chavez Agustin for bringing that type of hate in Tobago, where PNM people afraid to say this PNM, and TPP people feel like a victimized and do all type of things to people who they suspect is PNM. That is not what Tobago is about. We know Tobago as a place where the people are politically mature, they're politically intelligent, and they make a choice when they go to the poll. They show their discontent or they show their support when they go to the poll. And for the 21 years the PNM was there, on 5 consecutive periods, they would have given the PNM Tobago 5 chances to continue to be in the THA. So in the first 4 years, the PNM went there in the THA, they were satisfied with the work that was done for the first 4 years, and they gave them a second mandate. And then the second time, they were contented and happy with the progress the PNM in the THA, they gave them a third mandate. And on the third time, they will continue to be pleased with the work the PNM was doing in the THA, they gave them a 4th mandate. And on the 4th time, they gave them another mandate for the 5th time in the THA to develop the Tobago. So you can't tell me PNM did nothing. What we need to look at is what the TPP did in their first 4 years to warrant them getting a second 4 years. And it's simply like that. Look how they're treating Big Dog, Mr. Timothy. Why they get on like that? But they should be happy this ghetto youth has changed his life and want to represent his constituency. Why it is you need to embarrass him and pull him down so to say he don't know nothing about bills and he don't know nothing about this? Like if you can't learn, if it's true. Why you need to pull down people in order to feel good about yourself? So as I end, I want to urge the people in Tobago, our brothers and sisters and family in Tobago, the choice is yours. Nobody can force you to vote for something you don't want. And we trust that you will make the best decision in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago and get back that love between cousins and neighbors and sisters. Under the PNM, it never used to have that kind of hate. And I'm really concerned. So Dominic, I want to leave it there. And again, PNM people out there, do not let them get under your skin. de-escalate. But if things arise, I'm not no saying to say you can't defend yourself, but I hope it don't reach to those things. But what happened there with that person that night, that the woman is the one who escalated the situation. Instead, imagine she had a gun, Dominic. Right? Imagine that. What may have happened to her? Had she, when she was stinging the knife up and down, she chopped one of the women or something? What happened there now? A flag, a TPP flag. Come, let me do better than that now. We are better than that, Dominic. Have a blessing.
Thank you, Jen. So meanwhile, I saw the chairman of NCC, Peter Kanai, was booed. And at the launch of I think it's the Carnival Village or so. So for persons who are not accustomed to frequenting the Queen's Park Savannah for Carnival, so there's an area that the NCC normally creates for creatives, artists, and so on to come, and they would have free shows, calypsonia and soca artists and stuff will come and perform. They usually have a big tent right by the entrance to where the food area is, where the vendors normally are. And they have a calypso tent there. But I think they changed up the layout this year, which didn't meet with the approval of the normal patronage. Right? The people who are accustomed, they know the layout and how the thing usually goes. So Mr. Kanai, it seems, had to truncate his speech because while it appeared he had several pages when the booing and the jeering started, because people didn't agree with what it is he was saying. So I understand the minister was supposed to speak after him, and when she realized water more than flour, she decided she ain't talking. Because she already got booed a few months ago when she was speaking at the launch, something, and they would have, she got booed for trying to make the thing political, right? So, Mr. Surut Rambachan, you all know who he is. Let me get this here.
Right, so we talk to the big man himself.
Let me get this here. Let me see if he take it out. Yes, so it seems he took it out. But thank God the internet is forever. All right. So let me read this here. And it tells you the disrespect that they have for this national product that is Carnival. My observation, 167 million for Carnival last year. This is a post he put out 3 days ago. How much for Ram Leela, where values are developed and preserved over many future generations, where communities unite, where young minds are spiritually shaped, where creativity blossoms, where local entrepreneurs build business acumen, where what an equal country, what misplaced priorities. So it seems that in the mind of Mr. Surut Rambachan, Carnival, doesn't offer any of these things. So I guess entrepreneurs don't build business acumen through Carnival, right? You have a lot, and you see, you all know I don't like to go down the race route, right? But the reality is that a lot of the Fed promoters, Carnival Fed promoters, are persons of African descent. It's a fact. I just say it. So they love to say that persons of African descent can run business or whatever, all of these things. We have people like, what's his name? Is it Kwesi Hopkinson? I think is his name, Hyper Hopper. He promotes FETs. You have Jules Sobian, who is Caesar's Army. They have, I know Jules would have linked up with, I think, Tribe. Jules has a massive band, Carnival band, and then they also host a number of FETs. I think the Stink and Dirty, which is a very successful FET, is I think Hyper Hopper is behind that. A lot of these soca artists, again, persons of African descent, and they make a lot of money over the Carnival season. Because they get to play in a number of FETs and the like. But here it is, Rambachan wants to compare Carnival to Ram Leela. And he's talking about Ram Leela. Seems he's advocating that Ram Leela deserves more money than Carnival because it develops values, it preserves which are preserved over many generations, and it causes communities to unite, and young people are spiritually shaped, and so on. So we can understand when they're talking about how much money they save for carnival and things. URICOT has come out and they said they will not allow feds to be had at any of their venues or any of the infrastructure that falls under them. So Brian Lara Stadium, the car park, not the stadium itself, the car park. No feds there. Stadium, this, that, nothing. So a lot of these fed promoters and so on who would normally make a money for carnival find themselves in a bit of a jam. All right? Trying to find places to host their feds, host their events, and so on, with limited spaces. And then you come and you implement a law with noise pollution. So residents now just waiting for a certain time for them to call the police to have these feds shut down. And we know when people spend their hard-earned money to go to these feds, who goes to a fed at 12 o'clock in the day and it has to finish by what? Is 8 o'clock in the night or 10 o'clock in the night, I think is the time that the Prime Minister would have stipulated. So we only do an all-inclusives daytime fed. So feds like Army Fed and this fed and other people show up at the fed 10 o'clock in the night. That's the time the fed started till whatever hour the following morning. Right? But he wants to make that comparison between Ram Leela and Carnival, suggesting that as far as he's concerned, Carnival doesn't deserve the kind of money that the government puts into it. Never mind the fact that they talk about how much money Carnival brings in. I see now that the government has put out a reminder to artists, soca artists, that they are required to pay taxes on all revenues that they generate, revenues over the carnival season, even revenue or income that they generate while performing outside of Trinidad and Tobago. You are required to pay your taxes on that. Now, don't get me wrong, that has always been the law. Any income that you earn in excess of $90,000 for the year, you're supposed to pay taxes on. Okay. Has it really been enforced? Because a lot of people are not going to come and tell you, well, I made this amount of money, or I made that amount of money. A lot of these artists don't have business accounts to put the money in, so they are paid privately, personally, but the government sees. So I think I saw some feature at Kes having some concert, I think in New York. Kes is being Canada, you have others. Marshall performs outside as well. And Suruj wants to talk about equity. And again, and whenever this conversation comes up, they always have a problem with it, right? So these guys earn their money seasonally, the majority of them. Not everybody is a Marshall, not everybody is a Kes, not everybody is a Voice, who have performances year-round, who are invited and who go and perform at various carnivals around the world, and who can have concerts, mega concerts, and get a full house. Not everybody are these guys. So some of them, carnival, they make a money. Look at the other day we saw this video with Cassie, who has indicated all he had, his name was $5. He was facing eviction. Cassie has had a couple good songs, but his music has not developed like some others, and so now he finds himself in this situation, right? But we have people in this country who make a lot of money that the government, for some reason, don't want to go after. And every time you speak about it, it's somehow like it's sacrilege. And the supporters of the UNC will come to tell you, well, they're making so much money. The coconut vendor, who said he's making $10,000 a month, right? From selling coconuts. Well, all that money he making, and with all that money, he's supposed to be able to pay that fines, $10,000 a month, he could pay $19,000 and all of that. They're not coming to go on to do the analysis that they would do when the conversation comes up about the doubles vendor. They want to give you a whole analysis and a whole breakdown of all the things that the doubles vendor has to spend money on, all of the ingredients, and how the doubles vendor had to get up early in the morning when you're still in your bed, and sometimes they had to pay people to assist to make the doubles and all of that. And they could tell you, and this is how much, and they could estimate how many doubles the vendor is going to sell for the day, and when you minus all the expenses with the ingredients and so on from what he makes, and this is how much the vendor makes for the day and for the month, and so you shouldn't tax them. But the coconut vendor, they didn't give you that breakdown. Now, I hold no brief for him, because I'm sure you would have seen the subsequent post going around with the screenshot of some racist comment that he's alleged to have made some years ago, right? But anyway, coming back to the core of the issue, They're not telling you, well, when he goes to purchase the coconuts, because a lot of these guys, they drive around, they see people with coconut trees in their yard, and they come and they offer and they say they want to purchase your nuts, and they will pay you how much for each nut. That they had to pay somebody with them to go and climb up the tree. They had to pay for fuel because they're driving around whole day, neighborhood after neighborhood, looking for coconuts. It's not like they have a coconut field where they're growing nuts and they will just go and cut and sell. So there is a cost to the fuel, and when you're doing all of that driving around the place, of course you have to there is wear and tear on your vehicle. Sometimes people come and they want to buy bottles of coconut water, so you have to purchase the bottles, the plastic bottles as well. They're not giving it a breakdown, no. He making $10,000, he say $10,000 a month, right? So he can pay the fines. But you raise the issue about others who making plenty money, whether it be the doubles vendor, whether it be the bacon shark man, whether it be the person who selling roti in St. James or whatever it is, and you always see in a crowd there. Whenever these discussions come up, they could tell you all the things that they have to spend money on and why they should not have to pay taxes, right? I know one particular doubles vendor, and in a particular area. Well, I don't know them, but because they operate in the vicinity of one of the places where one of my offices is. And I remember when my sister was at West Shore, and I went to see her, and I saw the doubles vendor there, and his wife was pregnant and she was in labor, and he took her to West Shore to have the child. Now, anybody who's ever had a child at West Shore or St. Clair Medical will know it ain't cheap, right? It ain't cheap. Even if you have health insurance, it's not cheap. But his wife wasn't in Port of Spain General. She wasn't in Mount Hope. She wasn't in San Fernando General. She was in West Shore. So it tells me clearly he has money to be able to pay for that. But he pays no taxes, no income tax, that is. But I don't see the government going after them. I don't. But you want to go after the soca artist, fine. But then we can't have ad hominem legislation, right? But you put it out there. Hey, you see all the money you make there, we want a piece of that. We don't care if you spend how much money to record your music, to produce your song, and all of that. And you only got hired to sing in 3 fets or 4 fets. We want a piece of that. Not taking into consideration, a lot of these artists don't even make $90,000 for the year from their music, from their career. They don't. Simple as that. But this is a revenue generating government. And to all those persons who are trying to defend the increase in the fines, no problem. Let me hear what is, because you all say it's about lawlessness, and if it is you don't break the law, you're not going to have to pay the fine, and so on. And the Prime Minister is simply trying to clean up the country and bring an end to the lawlessness. And we're talking about saving lives and all of that. All these things are all talking about. That's what it's about. But under the PNM, you all couldn't see that. All you were blind. Had on blinkers, you all couldn't see why the PNM was doing it. The merit point system, and it wasn't about saving lives, it wasn't about road safety and bringing an end to the lawlessness. No, it wasn't about that. It's just about generating revenue. But under the UNC, no, it has nothing to do with revenue generation. When the PNM was giving people moratorium and giving them a blind, well, it's about revenue generation. But you hypocrites. Hypocrites. What's the excuse for the other things that they increase fines on? Right? What's the increase in the cost or the fees for renewing your passport? That's saving life too? The increase in the fees for your firearm user's license and other related costs concerning firearms, that's to save lives too? So less people will apply for firearms because the fees went up? I'm just asking, because remember this government said they're going to bring legislation to make it easier for law-abiding citizens to acquire firearms. So if you anticipate that there's going to be an increase in the number of people applying for firearms with no guarantee that they're going to get it, just the application alone now is what, $600? And I would have read for you on the TTPS website up until last week, right? There was a FAQ And one of the questions was, what is the fee associated with applying for the firearm user's license? And the TTPS website, not me, TTPS website said there is no fee attached to the application for your provisional license or your FUL. That's what they said. Now it's $600. So when you anticipate we bring this legislation, Tom, Dick, Harry, Jenny, and Jane and the dog will be applying for firearms. So that's $600 by the how many thousands of people want firearms. No guarantee that you're going to get it. And it's not that they're going to give you back your $600 if you don't get through. But it's not about a revenue generation. So let me hear you all there. Forget the fines for road traffic fines. All the other things that they increase, the dues that they increase on the port, the customs duties and so on, that they said, well, the only reason they're increasing it is because these fines have been the same, these fees have been the same for decades. And it's about time they're about due for an increase. How many lives that's saving? What is your logic? What is your explanation for the increase in those fines? Since you have an answer for the traffic fines and everything else that they increased 100-fold. Tell us, what's the reason for that? It's not about revenue generation. No, they're cleaning up the system, right? But under the PNM, that was oppression. Under the UNC, that is good governance. That is tough leadership, strong leadership. According to you all, some more like you all like the umbrella with no grease. And I am just amused reading some of the comments at how some of these UNC supporters will defend this foolishness. You all rake the PNM over the coals for lesser things for the last 10 years, but all of a sudden you all have developed the patience of Job. Don't sell the refinery. The refinery is Trinidad owned. And now you hear Munilal talking about the government intends to go to look regionally and internationally for a partner for the refinery. You all had an issue with Jindal. You had an issue with Oando, right? Government need to open back the refinery. But they want to sell it out for this PNM only selling out the country assets, That's what you all say. But the same government that you all voted in and support, come telling you now, they're going to look regionally and international. The same Guyana that Dr. Rowley spoke to, you all had an issue with that. But Murilal is telling you there's going to be an energy conference later this month in Suriname and one in Guyana, and they're going to push the refinery at these conferences, and then they're going to be looking outside the region and internationally. The same thing that the Rowley administration was doing that you all had a problem with because they're selling out the assets. Kamala no longer selling out the asset. That's not considered selling out the asset, right? That's good governance. So Oando gone. After all the work, years of looking for a lesser, or looking for somebody to reopen the refinery so that the government wouldn't have that burden. Finally found somebody. Went through the entire process. And we're in the process of negotiating. And this government came in after they maligned the same company, went out of their way, and you enablers in the UNC supported them by sharing the foolishness when they come to tell you about Oando and how much debt they had and all of this foolishness. You all came and went to do research and to publish this nonsense. But you couldn't find the information that's showing the turnaround and how much profits Oando was making, where they were operating and so on. No, well, they couldn't find that. Maligned the company. Now they're going to be right back to square one. Begging, right? From pillar to post. Like the littlest hobo, looking for food. Begging. We have a refinery come now. Well, if the refinery is so profitable, why is it so difficult to find somebody to reopen it? Kamala said they would do it. They would get the money, they'll find the money. Now they tell him, well, we do the report, yeah, the refinery could work, but we just don't have the money to do it, so we're going outside to beg. Right now, Jillian John is in China. What's she doing there? She's selling the National Revitalization Program. But you went to the Middle East, you went to UAE and Dubai and where else? Qatar, Oman, wherever it is, you all went and met with the sheiks of the Middle East. No commitments. So now we've decided to look to China. China have money, and these Chinese people have to invest. So we will capitalize on the Belt and Road Initiative and see if they will come on. So if you can get through China, where are we going next? India? And then where? Africa? If this plan is so great, so ambitious, you can't get local businesses. You all had a big thing, big event in the diplomatic center. Spend a set of money on food and drink and entertainment. Invited all of the business people in Trinidad and Tobago to partner with you all. All we heard, yes, we heard expressions of interest. People were praising it and how ambitious it was. And all of these business people who were praising it, all of a sudden they disappear. They boil down like Baji, as we say. So you ain't get the support you're looking for from the local businesses. You're going to the Middle East. You ain't get the support there now. You're going to China. Let's see if you'll make it through China. You can't convince these people, but you convince your UNC faithful. Yeah, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Same China. Anyway. MH is saying revitalization, nothing. That word they will see on a shampoo bottle. So JJ go in China now, she might only come back with more weaves. But we don't cheap over there. Jerry said UNC have no negotiators who could influence in restaurants. And that is so true. Altair is saying Jolene could go where she want. They want nothing to do with the UNC government. They freed them. Facts. Up to now, you have not had the benefit of a report from the last contingent of ministers that went to the Middle East. More than a month later, Saddam ain't tell you nothing. Mr. Foreign Affairs ain't tell you nothing. Julian ain't tell you nothing. And they probably say, well, we can't keep sending so many ministers, spending taxpayers' money to travel, first class, business class, looking to sell Trinidad, just like Falio and who's this other one? Tashia Boris. How much travel they travel to the UK, US, Germany, Barbados, Jamaica, selling the greatest little island. And what we get from it? It took Dr. Rowley, the man who they told to take the airport terminal and put it between his legs. It took him to bring back sandals. What has happened with that? Dr. Rowley set up the meeting. He said, I'm putting it in all your hands now because the last time, well, let's say PNM this, the PNM want to give out and do this and do that. I'm putting it in all your hands. He put it in your hands. What's going on now? No further update, but meanwhile, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, construction of yet another, the second resort that we were supposed to benefit from, the second resort that was supposed to be built in Tobago, the beaches. Construction is underway in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Right? 2 that we lost ended up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the people who run them, where are they now? Offering themselves to you again for office. And only promoting them. Right. Let me get this here. Give me one sec, cooler. Mr. Shak have it right. FAFO. Plenty earlier in that situation. Where is it? Get this here. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Romain, and to all of the members of the show and Trinidad and Tobago generally.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, happy New Year to you, sir.
And to you
listen,
too.
It's interesting that you talk about the Oanduse situation. Did you look at the clips of the meeting here Trump had with the oil executives in the United States? Yes,
I did.
And you heard the comments of the chief operation officer of Exxon, and the words he used in describing the depth of the investment that is needed to bring the heavy crude to market. And what did he say pointedly? That once the situation is not, when the situation remains fluid and they can't have enforceable contracts,
yes,
it will be useless for them to go in there. And similarly, when you look at the same thing could be said about the Guaracara refinery, right?
Yes.
And did you hear how sheepish our energy minister sounded when he was saying what he said? Right? I wonder how Cameron Roger felt saying that, and the junior minister who was adamant that the refinery will be open next year, right? So they have to go cap in hand, tear between their legs now to go to try to court other people. And for one of the same key reasons that the Exxon that you spoke about,
yes,
is the aged and broken down facilities in Venezuela because of the effects of being sanctioned and not being able to bring in material and skilled personnel to maintain and repair what was there, right? Because many people fail to realize that Venezuela, like ours, is a mature province.
yes,
The difference between they and us is that they still have reserves, while ours went down significantly. And the other thing that the man said at the heights of its production, Venezuela did produce about 3 million barrels a day. It will take at least 10 years for them to reach that level.
yeah,
Right? They're now producing something like 300,000. Even to get to where Guyana is now, that will take significant time. And then, like I said before, it's heavy crude, it's not sweet, light crude, like what's coming from the Middle East.
yes,
Nobody is going, or even shale oil, nobody is going to invest what is required and significantly at the current oil price, right? Bearing in mind that we pegged our budget, pegged our budget at $70 a barrel, which we are yet to realize for the year or since the budget was passed. Doesn't that say something significant, right? About how airy and pie in the sky and unprepared this present government was to deal with the energy sector?
yep,
And something that people have not paid courtesy to. The language of nutrient and saying that, listen, we pulling out and we going. When these people go back to Canada or they go around the table to other multinationals, you feel they're going to paint a favorable picture of Mr. Ramdi and the people they dealt with since they changed their government? They are going to say that, listen, all you have down there is a set of chuffed up fools who want to operate like if this is a mafia movie. This is the Godfather Part 4, and they're extorting us in some little dark alley for what they think that they deserve to get. Right? I know about like people who have had professional contracts signed and so on. Right? When I heard that, I was just aghast, and I said, looking at it, in 9 months, look at how these people have destroyed the work that was done by the past energy minister and former prime minister, Mr. Young, and getting us to a certain level of respect around the world. And I want people to consider this, right? So all these things were not tax or revenue collection measures. So when the lady said at the inauguration outside to the reporters who asked her, we will find the money. I hope people realize that this was the only solution that they had about finding the money. And look at just the situation with traffic and so on. But think about every other thing had increased. I have a friend who had a little small grocery, and he's saying that the licensing fee to sell spirits has gone to 9,000. It's 100% from where it was. So a lot of these small mom and pop grocery shops around the place who sell the cars well, it wouldn't be profitable to them to be in that business. So you will very well see as the months go on, many of these places will close up shop. Right? And they are not the people who are gaming machines and so on. So I mean, people just have to look closely and see what is coming. And what is coming is what you so religiously warned us about every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Dr. Rowley and others on the platform, and other people. Incidentally, I don't know if you read former Senator Drayton's op-ed in the Express this morning.
No, I haven't.
Well, it's very interesting when you talk about the lies that the government took. When you know about it, instead trying to hold a middle ground and not to give the past administration, she's still lumping the past administration with others about corruption and leveling with the people. But since the initiative has conversations with the Prime Minister and others, Dr. Rowley has always level with us. Is Dr. Rowley told us this and told the members of his cabinet when they were sworn in there in Napa. I am not in love with office. And if any of you all are in love with office, then you're all in for the wrong reason.
Yes.
And that's why he took the decisions that he took, right? People might call it reckless or whatever. But it is fact. And I'm sad that even though she wants to remain neutral or seem non-partisan, that Dr. Ellen Drayton couldn't come out and say that the governance we had in the last 9 years under PNM was needed and transformative and help and save the country from even being in a worse position than it was. Is it too hard to give credit where it is due? Sad. Thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Rubin.
Yes, sir.
And take care of Godspeed.
Thank you.
Great program, as we said.
Indeed. Yeah, the head of Exxon says that Venezuela is, at this time, uninvestable. And the same heavy crude that Venezuela has similar to ours. Trump once said that, that was junk. No. It's a different position taken. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Yeah, excellent call previously. I must congratulate him. And also, good program so far, very informative as usual.
Thank you.
I just want to say, just to add to what that gentleman said, one of the reasons why President Trump wants to obviously rapidly develop Venezuela's oil, he wants to keep the oil price low to control supply, right? But what Exxon Mobil, Chevron, and all those energy companies told him, a lower oil price in the world market is not lucrative for them, right? It's not lucrative for them. They prefer a short-term supply and high demand, where with this type of crude, as the caller rightly mentioned, it will be more lucrative for them to invest money and develop the industry. At this time, it's a very, very, very money-losing entity at this time. Also, I just want to add, since this government want to collect taxes, right? And reminding local artists about paying their taxes once their income crosses $90,000 a year. I wonder if they're willing to go and collect the taxes from Derek Chin and Chinese Laundry, owing $93 million and $36 million respectively, in which the Revenue Authority was going to collect.
Correct.
That they disbanded. So if you're so interested and moving feverishly to collect taxes, why don't they go after those people? Is it that those people are somewhat supporters of their party as to why that went all hush-hush? Right? So people need to wake up and smell the coffee. Them taxing the people is their means of basically finding the money to pay public servants 10% and back pay. That's all I want to say, sir. Have a good evening, man.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad the caller raised that issue about those two gentlemen who were owing significant tax liabilities under the last administration, 96 million and 30 or 94 and 36 or something to that effect, right? Over $120 million. And when efforts were made to collect, same government that is now in place and trying to collect taxes and is reminding artists that you have to pay, they said it was political overreach. In fact, I believe when they came to the parliament to debate the the repeal of the Revenue Authority. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa in her contribution referenced that and said that what happened to Movie Town and so on with respect to the 90-something million in taxes and how that was published in the newspaper and it was political overreach and how the newspaper found out about that and all of these different things. But they say that we are a lawless. She said Trinidad and Tobago is a lawless dump. But tax evasion is lawlessness too. Tax evasion or tax avoidance to the tune of millions of dollars. Persons not paying the tax liabilities. These are the same when the last administration, and again, and look at the difference there. When the last administration sought to carry out the law, or when it is that they tried to enforce compliance, they gave opportunities. That is why the last administration had a tax amnesty for close to a year. They didn't just come and say, well, we're going to seize stuff and all of that. And they could have done that. They said, listen, we're going to have an amnesty. And that's just come and pay what you owe. You don't have to pay any fees. You don't have to pay any interest. No penalties. Just come and pay exactly what you owe. And then we're good to go. And they kept, every time the deadline came for the amnesty to end, they would give an extension to accommodate people. They said to business owners who were delinquent with respect to payment of the NIS contributions on behalf of themselves and employees, we will give you an amnesty. Come and pay. No penalties, no late fees. Just come and pay what it is that you owe. That's what they told them. Come and pay. But this administration, no, we're enforcing the law. And if you don't pay, pressure for you. Find the money. We don't want to hear nothing else. But Rowley was draconian. Rowley was an oppressor. Rowley was a dictator. And Mbut was, right. And that's why we are where we are today. And again, when I was having that conversation yesterday with some of the folks, and and one of the guys made the point, he said, and people keep saying that the PNM, why the UNC didn't win the election because you all lost the election. You all lost the support and the goodwill of the people who put you all in office and who supported you all for years, right? And the guy told me plain, he said, well, you all didn't do right by these people. And they just couldn't take it anymore. And they decided they're not voting. And they withheld their votes. But at least you all could take consolation in fact they didn't go and vote for the UNC. Right? They didn't give you all their vote, but they didn't vote for the UNC either. And that is what the UNC needs to keep in mind. And I always make the point. We lost the election by 15,080 votes over 9 constituencies. When you add up the number of votes that we lost by in each of the 9 constituencies that we went into the election with, that the UNC was able to pick up 15,080 votes. Well, not 102, 98,000 people, because when the EBC did their final count, 98,000 people who voted for the PNM in 2020 did not vote for us in 2025. And the UNC didn't get those 98,000 votes. So all we needed out of that 98,000 was 15,080. And we would still be in government with 22 seats. 15,080 votes. So when they talk about UNC won a landslide and the population voted overwhelmingly for them, no. The population didn't vote overwhelmingly for you. They voted underwhelmingly for us, unfortunately. We didn't need the 102,000. We didn't need the 98,000. All we needed was 15,080 votes. And I am certain that we had the votes out there. Just the people decided they're not going to exercise their franchise. We end up in opposition. And here we are. But state of emergency is to come to an end the 1st of February. Let's see what is going to happen. All right? A lot of people upset with us on, all ain't doing enough. We ain't hearing from all enough. We have to operate within the limits of the law right now. All right? Not saying that we're going to have any massive protests or whatever it is. And people are not waiting on us for that, because you have civil society groups, private sector groups, and just ordinary citizens who waiting patiently for the state of emergency to end so that they could come out on the streets and protest. And so when I see people making comparisons and even UNC people who are saying, like God Christopher, who if you only mention anything bad about Kamala, you ready to lick you down, right? Now these days he criticizing the UNC just like so many others. And I'm just reading a post there, the supporters of the UNC raking him over the coals. They're reporting his profile to Facebook. In the post, he's saying that Facebook sent him a notice that they will be deactivating his profile in 24 hours. And who reported him? The same people, fellow UNC supporters who he defended. They are the ones PNM, when he cussed PNM for the last 10 years, PNM people never report his page. We don't have it to study. But it's your own UNC people now. Just imagine that. When you defended Kamala for the last 10 years and so, anytime PNM people say anything about you, you're ready to fight. And now, because you speaking facts, right? Speaking truth to power, as they say, and calling them out on the nonsense. The same supporters telling you, go for me here, good riddance, you're no good, you're nasty, you're this, you're that, you're the next. Difference between PNM and UNC supporters, are they called a cult? Miss me with that nonsense. Marlene Watson is asking, could it be that they are going to change the 500 million cotton notes in the old notes? I won't put nothing past these people. They're desperate for money. If anything, they need money and they need to defend that budget deficit of 3.8 billion. Right? So they need to generate revenue. And I suppose they were probably hoping for Dragon that something could happen. So they had to find the money somewhere. So they need you all to break the law. Meanwhile, the 7% online tax is still there that they said they would have gotten rid of. It's still there. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
How are you doing, Dominic?
I am good.
Dominic, I just enjoy your program as usual. Keep on keeping edifying the population.
Thank you.
Keep on what you're doing because you're the MP for your area. Dominic, just talk about what I wanted to do. I saw some videos that I am very disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It reminds me of some incident that took place years back.
Mm-hmm.
Tobago never had that type of variant before, and apparently ever since PDP and this new political party coming in, you know, apparently it seems like they get them back to worse.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman takes out a knife at PNM supporters.
Yes, Jenny was telling us about that just now.
I don't know, it's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing too, I want to take a look at that so-called new program they have on TGT to see how this new host for TGT is going to present herself.
Mm-hmm.
I was made to understand now that young lady with the ILP. Am I correct? Dominic?
If what?
So you don't know her?
No, I don't.
All right. So about regime change, after that comes to Maduro or Mr. Renka.
Mm-hmm.
Is just a different driver.
Yep.
And I experienced for those individuals who back up that is not Judeans. Because now this government, well, it's not put on the progression. They have to deal with their seat.
Right.
So, Dominic, you have a good day.
You too, sir. Yes, I'm now seeing a picture here with the woman with the big knife in Tobago. We don't even see that kind of thing in politics in Trinidad. Right, there was one thing I wanted to touch on, right? As I remembered that. Where is it? Right. So we have asked on many occasions, what does Philip Edward Alexander do for the 70,000 plus that he earns every month? So he put out a post the other day. A Facebook page by the name of UNC for the People put out a post, and The question was, what are your thoughts on Philip Alexander's achievements so far as Junior Minister of Housing? Let us know. And he replied, he says, not sure who operates this page, but the first version got overwhelming support and positive feedback. This one's a little more specific and speaks to achievements. PNM, here we go again, PNM. PNM tries to sell a narrative that we three, himself, David Lee, and Annie Roberts, are relaxed and having fun. I wonder where we got that from. Many may not be aware of the inner workings of the Ministry of Housing, so I will help by sharing some of what I personally have been a part of so far, and of which is already in the public domain. It's one paragraph. As Minister, I have been involved in meetings with all major sector stakeholders and special interest groups, including all persons with disability groups. So he's been involved in meetings, all right. He met with MPs and councillors on sites. I have toured most HGC projects, including those under construction, as well as all the trouble sites all over the country, including Moruga and Point Fortin. I wonder if he toured Cashew Gardens North as well and seen the condition of the roads. Maybe in order for it to get his attention, Hans probably needs to go to Cashew Gardens and do a video, or Stuart Young should probably go there and do a video and highlight the potholes, and rest assured Philip will show up. Assessed HDC malls, engage business consortiums and contractors to identify ways forward for public-private partnerships. I sat in, he didn't conduct, I sat in on high-level planning sessions that are right-sizing a failing, losing enterprise, represented the government and the country at the Minervi Conference of Regional and Central and Latin American Housing Ministers in Barbados, where he somehow found the time to go to a historical site that has ties to enslaved Africans, for him to talk about how Africa run from Trinidad and to talk about the Afri-Exim Bank and how the Rowley administration didn't want to sign for the Afri-Exim Bank to come and set up shop here and so on. So he went to represent the government, but found the time for that. And, right. And he, right, set up housing help hotline 702 Phil that has already assessed and assisted hundreds of persons in the last 8 months. He didn't say how those persons were assisted. All right, so that's the sum total of what he did for the last 8 months. So we're looking at about just over $500,000 in salary, and with perks and so on, about $600,000 in the last 8 months. And that's all he's done. Sat in on high-level meetings. So he sat down on the couch and David Lee talking to whoever, and he just there with his legs crossed, twiddling his thumbs and hoping the opportunity presented itself for him to get in a word edgewise. But David Lee knows he's a waste of time, but he just invited him to the meeting out of courtesy, and he leave him there. All right? Wash him out. And for that, yeah, yippee, all that money. Right. So media release, revised opening hours for licensing division. Please be aware that the following licensing divisions will adjust their opening hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. to facilitate transactions effective Monday, January 12th, Caroni, San Fernando, Ryson Road, Port of Spain. This is what it has come to. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're paying overtime for things that should be conducted during the normal working hours, when all the government simply has to do, this caring, loving, benevolent government just simply say, we're giving only a moratorium. 2 months. That's it. But still come and line up from 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Because that's making sense. Lord have mercy. Folks, it is 5 o'clock. I will take my leave. I will thank you all for I'll take this last call and then I shall take my leave. All right. Brian. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Brian, I don't know what happened there. Let's try this again. Yes, sir.
Dear listeners and callers,
Greetings.
happy New Year to you.
And to you.
Thank you so much. MP Rumin,
Yes, sir.
The leader of your workers' trade union said a couple of weeks back,
Mm-hmm.
there are people who don't want the refinery, just pushing open for the refinery not to restart.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if you talk the truth and you talk facts about what it would take for the refinery to start, it's because you don't want the refinery to start.
Mm-hmm.
What does he want people to see who may be or may be in the know as to exactly how much money it would take, how much money it would take to invest in the upgrading of the refinery and the restarting of the refinery?
Mm-hmm.
Does he want us to lie to people? If it tells that they said before the elections, as soon as they get in, they will start be going into 9 months.
Yes.
And then they're now talking about, the minister is now talking about going outside after 9 months. Hasn't told us what is really in the report up to now that he has done.
Mm-hmm.
But going outside there to see who they could get, all because they don't want to bring the guys from Nigeria because PNM found them. That is the only reason. So they're going out there now. They're now about to go. These negotiations don't take place overnight. If even they leave now, when you feel they will get somebody, identify someone and have them vetted and ensure that they have the correct monies and the correct type of personality and people and grouping to come to Trinidad to upgrade and run a refinery.
Mm-hmm.
These things don't happen just so. Nigeria would have had to be vetted. There would have to be research on him to see exactly what he is bringing to the table. But lying to the people and saying that, well, we have to go Guyana and we have to go Suriname and then we're looking at home and abroad. They were looking at home. Why are you going abroad?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How come nobody at home here has called you and said, listen, I am interested in running the refinery? Have they interviewed anybody at home? Or from home? We're talking about going abroad. We said this will take deep pockets. That's all we said. A person with deep pockets and a person with a history of running a refinery. A person in the oil business. Because you must know what you're doing. You can't just come so and say, okay, I had a little bit of money, I'm going to start it up. Because at the end of the day, you will have to keep on putting out money because you have to employ people. You have to buy equipment. Yep. You have to spend a lot of foreign exchange. That is what we were saying. But every time he comes on, it's fluff. And this and that and the other and trying to tie up people with old talk. Every time we listen to him, I know it's old talk. As Keita stopped talking now, he realized that he's more fluff. But he decided he ain't saying nothing. Better the Minister of Energy talk. He and the Minister will keep quiet. Because he knows old talk. It's old talk, people. Nothing is happening with the refinery at this point in time. Absolutely nothing. Roger Hossein said earlier, I think it was Friday morning, that they should go in another direction with respect to tourism and other things. Because if the refinery was to start, how come it didn't start yet? It didn't started. Because Roger Hossein who is more on their side, is now beginning to leave, realize his old talk. People are going to come just like that, take up them hundreds of billions of dollars and come to Trinidad and Tobago to invest in this tiny island just like that without knowing exactly what they're getting themselves into. And you have a greedy set of people in that government. That is why Nutrien has packed up. They're all about money and what they could get for themselves. And what they could perhaps do a thing on the side with. We'll put it that way. going to walk around with that kind of money and invest in a tiny island like Trinidad and Tobago just like that. There has to be an investment for them to make a profit.
Yep.
Else they're not coming, they're not going to invest that money. And I want people to understand that it's not small money we're talking about. It's billions of dollars. Not millions, billions. And it's forex. But you have to purchase new things for the refinery, new pumps. It's modernized equipment to upgrade the refinery. I told you all, the refinery is in the lower end of the fourth quartile. I'm not talking about dump, that's a dump. Unless you have money to upgrade it. And it's going to take technological people, it's going to take a lot of work, it's going to take a lot of time. And the faster people understand that, as I'm listening to the fluff from this Minister of Energy, it's better for Trinidad and Tobago. Until you can literally bring something to the table instead of going like a merry-go-round all the time, but there and only then. The other day they found gas on Touchstone found some gas. But that was the first thing on the news. They found some gas. First thing, off the bat. They wanted people to know about it. But they still have a problem. And Nutrien said it. That two issues that they have. One of them was not enough gas. Methanex has indicated that they need cross-border gas in order to be efficient. Not me say so. Nutrimex said that. Methanex, said so. Nutrien set it out as you read, I think it was last week. Exactly what the people in Canada put on the website. And these are some of the real issues because they can't hide from it anymore. Right? They cannot hide. They could run, but they can't hide. The ultra deep license that they gave to the ExxonMobil, don't even study that, people. That ain't seeing the light of day anytime soon. And they have to do the research first and ensure that there's oil and gas. UNC hoping against hope. Now they're sending ministers all over the world to beg for money because they don't have any. And no reports are coming back to us on anything. Three of them went to Dubai. Any reports? One minister in the first 2 weeks went to Washington to beg for money. Any report? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now you have the minister who works in where China, fight in China. What's she got to do? So that it's all fluff. All fluff. And fluff number 2 is in Tobago, and I hope and pray that the people in Tobago understand what is really, really being sold to them, which is next to nothing, because they have not built anything in the 4 years. They too are traveling around the world. And I got to in one of the nightly PNM things, they said that a new plane, not even KLM, not a plane out of Europe, nobody. The hotels are empty. How many times you know people talking about Tobago and saying the hotels are empty? It's all fluff. Even then, had I said further.
Yep.
So it just goes to show. It's all talk and nothing behind it. But you know who they're not going to fool? They're not going to fool Moody's, and they're not going to fool Standard & Poor's. And as I told you all, what they're doing right now, imagine they want all their money. That's what they want because they don't have. They were supposed to pay the teachers month-end coming. They upgraded salaries, 0. They were supposed to pay back pay to look at WASA. Nothing for WASA. Nothing for WASA work. They were supposed to get a part of a back pay retroactive payment for Christmas. Still for them. And everybody get a heart and soul for the UNC. I love you. I love you. Everybody fall for that, and that's the end of that. Yellow is the code. And forward we go. Down the road with fluff, old talk, and a prime minister you can't see. But better than Tweety Bird. Only tweeting. going to the village in the dead of the night. Nobody asks you no question. But that's what you do when you don't vote. And if you're vexed with Dr. Rowley and so on, you go and say, I will vote for the next side. Well, don't cry. Because people crying, people thought that this would only affect a certain race of people, but they're affecting everybody. People crying all along in Pina, people crying because they're getting tickets too. I want to see when they start to dish out tickets in Tobago. Dominic, have a good evening.
You too, sir. Thank you. So I guess now we see why the government would have increased the age for foreign use cars that are allowed to come into the country to 8 years, despite protestations from the Foreign Used Car Dealers Association saying they asked for 6. So the government said, no, we're taking it to 8. Bring in cars that are 8 years old. What happens to 8-year-old cars? All right. Inspection almost immediately, right? Every 2 years, you have to go and spend your money for inspection stickers. 8-year-old cars in 2 years' time will be 10 years, and then 12 years in no time at all, even before you finish pay the loan, right? And they require you have to go and do so. The rich getting richer because all these inspection stations now will be making more money with all these more cars on the road that require inspections faster, rather than if you buy a brand new car and it's 5 years, then you go and do your inspection and so on, right? But bring in 8-year-old cars, they don't pay money. So people who drive in the 8-year-old cars and the 10-year-old cars, if you all don't go and do your inspections every 2 years, rest assured, tickets waiting for you. You think this government ship it? They know how to make money off all you. So we're almost to the anniversary of the divers, the barrier divers. Are we going to see this year the banners coming up? We will never forget. And calls to the government to compensate, because this government, one of their promises was they would compensate the families of the divers, which they said the PNM didn't want to do. And the PNM explained to you why they couldn't do it, because of issues with insurance and litigation and the like. But the former Prime Minister promised $1 million each, offered $1 million to each of the families. And the same UNC tell them, don't take that. They're trying to bribe all there. Right? They're looking for a Philip for election. We are in month 9. No talk, no million. They didn't get 100,000, not 10,000, not $1,000, nothing. Other than Vanessa Kusi, who is the wife of one of the divers who passed away, who would have benefited because she's a UNC councillor and she's also on the board of, I think, is Plipdeco. All right? The rest of the family's got nothing. Salt. They're still waiting. So I hope that the UNC supporters who for the last couple of years on the anniversary, you all come out to remind and you will never forget and put up your posters and malign the former administration. I hope that you will remind Prasad Bisesa and her government that they promised to compensate the families, and we are in month 9 and no compensation is forthcoming, no allocation in the budget for that, and we've had no discussion further about that. All the Prime Minister told you all a couple months ago. Same thing the PNM was telling you all. There are certain legal issues that prevent payment. But when the PNM was saying that over the last couple of years, they were saying they lie and they could pay. So let's see if come next month, if payments will be made to the families, right? So they could come in Parliament and say, promise made, promise kept, promise delivered. I'm not holding out hope for that. But then again, right now, their backs are against the wall. They're against the rope and they need help. They're looking for anything to be able to uplift their fortunes, because right now they're looking good. If they call an election, no, they lost. And they know that. Donna says, Brian, the people want Kamala, so let them take Kamala. In all her wickedness, she's very taxable. Anne is asking, if a property is not in your name, should you still register as a landlord? I would not. I don't think that would be practical to do, Anne. And I thought you would have asked that question earlier on about if the landlord passes on, if their loved ones, if their heirs would inherit the liability. No. So for the interim period until such time, if they don't have a will, the will is not probated and the property transfer is made, the liability falls to the estate of the deceased. All right? So it's similar to what the UNC used to be saying with the property tax, but where a person would have qualified for an exemption because of economic hardship, they couldn't pay the tax, that when they died, that the tax would be attached to the estate of the deceased, and those who inherit the estate would be liable for the tax. So in the same situation, if a landlord is registered and the person passes away, once the estate continues, is the estate that is going to continue to receive the, or should continue to receive the funds? Because if that is not the case, then you could have a lawsuit from other members of the family who may be entitled to a share in the estate, right? So if you are not the owner of the property, or the property is not in your name, but you're renting, if you are renting it, it really boils down to the lease that you have with the tenant, right? But are you legally entitled to have a lease with a tenant for property that's not your own? Because if that's the case, then anybody could just go and take a property, a HTC property, for instance, and fix it up, change the doors, give somebody keys and rent it and say that's my property. And so ideally, you should have some legal title or claim to the property. Merle is saying they're winning. Don't sorry for them. Let them enjoy their winnings. Yeah. Shaq said it FAFO. What did he say there? Jenny, I can't read that. I read it, but I can't read it out loud. Right. I, Ruckman Gangadin, claiming victory for the PNM Tobago in Tobago tomorrow. Fingers crossed, Ruckman, that the people of Tobago will do right. But I can tell you, another 4 years of folly, and given what we're seeing in this election campaign, the kind of violence and families. I know people in Tobago who tell me they stop talk to their family, they stop talk to friends, they don't want nothing to do with them. These are people who were previously PNM and going across the TPP. Families mash up, friendship mash up because of folly and them and the nonsense. It's another 4 years of folly as chief secretary, and that situation is only going to get even worse. Even worse. Man is a clear and present danger. He's disrespectful, and he's not a role model at all for the young people in Tobago. And I saw on the other night on the nightly news, one of the stations, they were saying that where they interviewed some young people in Tobago, and they said they ain't voted. Young people disillusioned, employment issues, and the like. The only people benefiting over there is Farley and his team. So one of his secretaries going and buy a new $1 million Mercedes-Benz. The Mercedes, the GLC 43 or the 63 or one of those $1.something million. That's what they like. Flam. Right? And my people struggling, they living it up. So they need another 4 years to pay for that vehicle. Kishan is saying PNM will get bad licks in Tobago. Okay, if you feel so. Kishan Ali, no problem. But people saying the same thing about you and say that you are going to get bad licks come local government election. Right? So, we'll see. I ain't talking about that. All over the place, your government getting costs from your own fellow supporters. Yes, Jimmy, I hear you. I hear you. So, folks, we'll chat again soon. All right. Stay safe. Keep safe on the roads. Whatever it is that you're doing. If you know that your car could get you a ticket, do like what some people have told me they're doing. Stay home. Well, not stay home. Leave your car home and travel. Don't mind public transport in a mess. But, until. If you ain't had the money to fix it, well, I'll tell you. If you can't borrow, well, leave it back up until better could be done. Because what you don't want is to still have the liability to fix these defects. And on top of that, you get a $2,000 ticket, a $4,000 ticket to add to your street. All right? Money not easy to come by in this GOVA season. And you don't need to be giving the government any unnecessary revenue, despite the fact that he said that, it's not about revenue collection. They ain't fooling me. That's exactly what it is about. Michael is saying have vehicle by Sando license and office camping out. Yeah, people want to get they fed up going back daily, and nothing happening. They could only take so many days off of work to line up a whole day. So, yes, Juju, people will still vote UNC. There are just people who just hate the PNM no matter what. And they will continue to vote for the UNC because that's their party. They will suck it up. They will take the abuse. They will take the oppression. And they will make excuses for it. The same things they complained about under the PNM, the UNC will do it to them and they will take it and have an excuse as to why it's necessary now because the PNM mashed up the country for the last 10 years. All they could talk about is the refinery close and that's more or less and property tax. That's all. And that mashed up the country. But I remind you all, under the PNM, the country's foreign reserves didn't fall under 5 billion. That happened under the UNC in 8 months. I will remind you that under the PNM, 70,000 people weren't fired in 6 months. The PNM didn't put 70,000. According to this document right here, it took the PNM 10 years. 10 years for 70,600 people to lose their job. Under the UNC, that happened in 6 months. And more people are going to be going home soon enough, right? Contracts continue not to be renewed. In the public service, people want 3-month contracts, 6-month contract, 1-year contracts, 3-year contracts that are coming up to expire and is not being renewed, and more people will be going home. Imagine the chairman of the North Central NCRHA, Tim Gopi Singh, at his press conference a couple of days ago, was happy to announce about cost savings. And under the last administration, you had 190 security officers spread across the Regional Health Authority network, and they've been able to bring that down to about 120 or 130 officers. So you happy to know 60 people went home. 60 people, officers, have lost their jobs. These people have bills to pay, they have families to feed, and you happy to come and announce that you were able to reduce the workforce by 60, send home these people. You're the government that you support, Tim Gopi Singh, right? That promised to create 55,000 jobs. What about the recruitment drive they had the other day, right? Where they invited people to come and go online and they have 20,000 jobs to give out. How many people were hired? How come they're not talking about that and boasting that they hired? They hired 20,000 people yet? I still seen people asking questions on Facebook and other social media platforms. Anybody get hired yet? But you happy, Gopi Singh, because you good. You're a doctor of 51 years. You living in Maraval, you living it up. You driving Mercedes-Benz and you getting money in your old age. When you should cock up your foot and enjoy what time you have left with your grandchildren. Right? You collecting fee as chairman of a regional health authority. When you have so many young people they could have put in those positions. They put you. And to all you could come to a press conference to talk about PNM and the last administration. People vote out the PNM for that. They don't need you to rehash. They want you to do your work and fix. And your way to fix it is to send home 60 people. You fire one particular janitorial firm, 40 people on the bread line, right? And that's your boast. That's your boast, Gopi Singh. Sending home people. As if all you fire enough. All you're good with. But PNM can't fool we black people again. We don't have to fool all you, Kishan. Kamla fool all you. Right now, the whole country, well, not the whole country, all of you UNC supporters who went and stained your finger and ram your finger in the ink up to your elbow for Kamla, based on promises that she made, she fool all you. Now me say so, UNC people say so, and you still here boasting you get fool. You get fool. All the fees she tell all she would have reduced, she doubled. She come and tell her she would repeal the 7% online tax. Never happened. Right? Tell her, come here, we'll create 55,000 jobs and you fire 70,000 people. PNM didn't fool nobody because the PNM never promised none of them things. UNC promised that. And how many of the promises they fulfill? Now I will call in next week Sunday. I done for now. Folks, have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.